Then I will officially call this meeting to order. I'll start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, so starting us off with a roll call, we have Andy Jacob joining us on. Can you hear me all right?
You could hear it before.
Okay, cool. We've got Andy Jacob joining us on Zoom. As you can hear, he is very sick. But with us today, we have Bob Cooney, Martha Majeski, Dan Angelman, myself, John Callahan. And then on Township staff side, we have Lori Gates, Valentina McCartney. I'm halfway there. At least I know it's a different name now. Yes. Mike Crotty and Paul Bettinger. I would also like to announce that we had executive session earlier tonight before starting, to discuss personnel matters and property acquisition. And with that, I will move into our consent agenda. So I will make a motion for the acceptance of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors from November 6th, 2025 budget meeting, as well as the November 10th, 2025 regular business meeting, and the amended minutes from October 23rd, 2025 workshop meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any comments? Clarification? All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty, moving on to Treasurer's Report and payment of bills. I will make a motion for the acceptance of the Treasurer's Report for the period ending November 30th, 2025. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Laura, anything special to clarify on that one?
So for the Treasurer's Report for period ending November 30th, 2025, we have a general fund balance of just over $6.2 million. And as of that same time period, we have realized over 100%, just slightly over 102% of our projected revenues for the year. And we're at about 85% of projected expenditures. But we do, December, we have a lot of year-end expenses that will come out.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion for the approval of disbursements dated December 8th, 2025. Do I hear a second? Thank you. Anything special for this one, Lori? All approved and recommended for approval?
Yep.
All paid and recommended for approval? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I'll make a motion to ratify the disbursements dated November 17th, or for the approval of the ratified disbursements dated November 17th, 2025. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And, I'm sorry, Lori, could you remind me what these were for again?
Yes,
Sorry,
this
blank right now.
was, at the last meeting, I mentioned there was gonna be an additional check run. There were some invoices that hadn't made it in, for the bill run at the last meeting, so these were
Right.
just additional expenses that should have been paid at the November board meeting.
Right. Okay. Great.
You have a second, I think.
Martha seconded.
Yes.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. And that concludes our Treasurer's Report. Moving on.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add recognition for outgoing Supervisor Martha Majeski. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And yes, I have prepared a speech, Martha.
Oh, Danielle.
Tonight we say farewell to the longest serving member on our board, Martha Majeski. After serving Schuylkill Township for 14 years as a supervisor, this is Martha's last meeting. The absence of Martha's experience and her dedication to the township will be felt next month, and I would be remiss if I did not take the opportunity to thank her and give her a proper send-off. Martha Majeski, if she were in her right mind, would not like me. We first met in 2019 when I was a party opposing the planned residential development proposal for Sedgley Farm. If I remember right, and I did look at the transcripts to count, I am somewhat responsible for Martha attending 7 public hearings on that project, one that went to 5 a.m. Notwithstanding me publicly second-guessing every decision she had made on Sedgley, I miss being an armchair quarterback. To my surprise, Martha was nothing but gracious when I was elected and joined the board in 2022, and she has been ever since. Martha and I do not agree on every issue. She's a Republican. I'm a Democrat. We don't always vote the same way, as evidenced by our vote a couple weeks ago on the police staffing. Our relationship on the board has been framed by mutual respect. We vote, we leave a meeting, our disagreement ends. Martha never makes things personal. She is a professional. Martha Majeski is the first person to volunteer and the last person to take credit. She is a committed environmentalist and has organized textile recycling programs for our township to keep old, non-donatable clothing out of the waste stream. She has sponsored our annual tree lighting event to shine a spotlight on domestic violence. She is at most cleanups organized by the Environmental Advisory Council. She and I participated in one cleanup where she used her commercial driver's license to man the township road crew truck to collect garbage plus extra garbage picked up by residents.
You're really making me uncomfortable.
My goal is to make you cry. If there is a Cones for Cops event, Martha's there. If the fire company has a pancake breakfast, Martha is there. Martha will bring a troop of friends to support it. If one of her colleagues has the bright idea to host a township movie night on the coldest night of October, Martha will show up, bring people, and make popcorn. Martha has served as our assistant treasurer for years because she had to learn the budget and fiscal policy of the township at a time when we didn't have professional staff, the professional staff we have today. The fact that the township's in great financial health is in due no small part to Martha. She's a huge personality. I will miss our meetings, punctuated by her exuberance. She cares deeply about this township and its residents. So tonight, I want to thank Martha on behalf of the board for her years with us and present her with this certificate in recognition of her service. However, the board is not the only group who recognizes Martha's commitment, so I would like to invite Evan Taylor from the fire company to say a few words.
You guys are really,
sorry?
really gonna make me cry.
Oh,
Thank
Bill,
you.
Bill. Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, Chief.
We're arguing who's going first.
Okay,
Martha.
You guys are gonna really make me cry.
stop talking.
Sir.
Turn the mic on.
Our technology almost gets really better.
Sure.
You knew about this. didn't you?
I'm going to read you from the plaque that we're going to present to you shortly. Brian, why don't you come up here with me? Martha, in appreciation of the 15 years of service you provided not only to the residents of Schuylkill Township, but to the men and women of the Schuylkill Township Police Department, we sincerely thank you for your support and friendship during your time as a township supervisor, and for, as Danielle put it, pitching in when we needed help. Really appreciate it. You're always an enthusiastic supporter of the coat drive, the food drive, all the other things that we do for the community. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. I couldn't get up until Chief got up, so. In support of the Let's Make Martha's Wishes Come True evening, you've always discussed being able to operate a fire truck. So while you're still in the township insurance and you still have your CDL, we're delighted to honor you with an honorary engineer awarded to Martha Majeski in recognition of your years of service to Schuylkill Township and the surrounding communities. We award you this position as well as the responsibilities associated with driving and operating fire apparatus in Schuylkill Township. And also, just there's a gift certificate that's good in perpetuity for coffee at the pancake breakfast, as long as we keep
and
having
your
a pancake.
coffee, Tom, and your coffee is the best. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yes. So I would like to second everything that was said. I very much appreciate having Martha on here, especially this being my first term. She's been very helpful in getting me on board and up to speed. So you will be missed. We do have an official resolution here recognizing your time. But in the interest of prolonging your suffering, we can wait until we get to the resolution ordinance section. That way you can get reminded again and bring it all back again a second time. Uh-huh.
Whatever you want to do.
Um,
And as many of you know, I don't like to wear my accomplishments on my sleeve, but I just like to just get involved and just do, and thank you.
you're quite welcome.
that's why we did this.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. With Martha sufficiently uncomfortable, let us move on. So moving on to old business. So our discussion of the preliminary 2026 budget. With that, I will hand it over to Lori to get us started. Oh, yes.
All right, so I am just going to give a brief overview. This is information that was posted on the website, but just a brief overview of where we're at in the budget process, how we got here. I'm going to keep it very brief. So, timeline of the general budget process. The budget process starts every year in June. That's when we start looking at year-to-date expenditures with department heads, and by July through August is when we really start honing in on what are we going to be looking at for the upcoming budget year. August 31st, all budget requests are due to me by all of the departments. So department heads, that includes the fire department, the police, road department, everybody who's making a budget request that's due to me by August 31st. That's also township committees and commissions as well. Between September and October, I plug all the numbers into the budget, and the first draft of the budget gets presented to the board it's always at the October workshops. That's the fourth Thursday in October. That's what we do every year. In some years we have, in fact, in most years that I've been here, we've only had that one budget meeting, and then we talk about it at the November business meeting, and it gets advertised and adopted in December. This year we did, we might have done it one other year since I've been here too, but this year we did specifically have an additional budget meeting. By November, the preliminary proposed budget gets approval to be advertised by the Board of Supervisors, because it must be advertised for a period of no less than 20 days before it can be adopted. And the board has to adopt a budget no later than December 31st of each calendar year. That's in accordance with second-class township code. So I kind of covered this. At the first budget meeting, I present the high level. All the numbers that have been given to me are, unless there's anything, wild in there, like somebody's asked for a water slide or something. I put all of the requests into the first draft so that we can see a total picture of what it looks like, worst case scenario. So first budget pass is always very high. And from there, the board has an opportunity to give me direction, and we hone it in from there and make reductions, come up with other funding strategies, those sorts of things. So that's the first budget meeting. Between the first and the second budget meetings, I make the changes as directed by the board, make the edits, continue. The other thing is, because we start so early, by the October meeting, I don't always have estimates for the next calendar year yet. Those continue to roll in as the budget process goes on. So as I receive those estimates, I update the budget. I can still continue to make any changes between that first presentation and the time that the board authorizes advertisement. So the budget is not final until it's adopted by the Board of Supervisors, and as I mentioned, that has to be done by December 31st of each year. The preliminary budget has to be advertised, as I mentioned, no less than 20 days. During that, and that's the period that we're in right now. So during that 20-day period, the public can make comments, they can come in and look at things. I am restricted to the changes that can be made once the budget is advertised. I know we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. Basically, any reductions are okay, but any increases are limited to nothing more than 10% in the aggregate or 25% in any major category. So, and the budget gets posted to the website. It's available. The full version's always available in the township building. And then at the December meeting, which is tonight, it's always on the agenda to be adopted. So just a overview, and I'm not going to touch on all of this because, like I said, this is available on the website, and we talked about it at the last meeting. But the first budget was presented in October this year, October 23rd. That was a high, all of the requests were in it, except for the EMS funding requests were not included in that first pass in the budget because no line item existed for that. That's not something that had been funded before. So the first draft showed a budgetary shortfall of about $756,000, but that did not include the funding for ambulance. At the last budget meeting, I presented 3 separate versions. Version 1 had a total budgetary shortfall that did then include EMS because at the first budget meeting, the board gave me direction to add EMS into the budget. So by the time we got to the second budget meeting, the version 1 of 3 had a total budgetary shortfall of just over $1 million with all of those things added in. And that included everything that everybody asked for. So there was a proposal for 2 additional police officers, full funding of fire capital and fire operations capital and EMS operations and capital. Version 2 then had no additional full-time police officers, full funding for fire EMS, and a budgetary shortfall of about $47,000. And version 3, no additional full-time police officers, full funding, fire, EMS, no tax increase. Did I mention in version 2 proposed a fire and EMS designated tax millage? I neglected to mention that part. I didn't just magically come up with all of the extra money, but version 3 had a budgetary shortfall of $894,000 with the no increase in taxes. At the conclusion of that meeting, the board directed me to continue with version 2, and that's the version that was publicly advertised. So that is the version that is in front of the board tonight for consideration on adoption. And there is a total in that version. There is a total of 1 mil increase. It's a dedicated fire EMS tax split between the fire department and West End ambulance. So 0.82 mils dedicated to the fire department, 0.18 mils dedicated to EMS. And again, that's the version that was advertised. So that's where we're at.
That's a lot to keep straight. Thank you.
I think I did it.
Without our accountant who just came back to work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding. Awesome. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that that quick overview. Yeah, I mean, I know we've been going over this a lot, but I also know it's confusing. So I want to make sure that we're going over it multiple times so everyone's clear on what's happening. I know there have been some complaints about communication, so trying to make sure this is as clear as can possibly be without, as clear as it can possibly be. So with that, we can move into the actual budget discussion itself. Do you have that second presentation?
Yes.
Great. So what Lori prepared was a review of how we got to where we are right now. Oh yes, excuse me. We do actually, we have those presentations, or both presentations up here on the table if anyone would like a copy. Just in the summary report. Oh, okay, gotcha. So the presentation as well as the summary report are available on the table if anyone wants to grab a copy. That's what's sitting up here up front. Public is more than welcome to grab them.
That's the same thing that was on the website.
Yep. And as Lori mentioned, that presentation was up on the website, as well as some other supplementary information like a budget fact sheet and some good stuff up there. So with that, I'm going to jump over to a second discussion. I have a alternative proposal to what we've been discussing over the last 20 days, last month, and just kind of want to set the stage before digging into some details on that. So to get started, Like Lori said, I want to clarify that this is a dedicated fire and EMS tax, and what that means is that we are legally obligated to spend any income from this tax on fire and EMS. We can't take that money and spend it on other things. It has to go to fire and EMS. And technically speaking, while we're talking about a 1 mil increase, functionally what that looks like is a 0.82 to fire and 0.18 to EMS. So it's not even one lump sum to fire and EMS. It's actually split. There's a dedicated line for fire and a dedicated line for EMS. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So jumping into a little bit more of a historic view, or for our agenda, I should say. I want to go over some of the email feedback we received. I read all of them that came in. We got 3 more tonight. I went through those as well. I know other people on the board have also went and reviewed all the feedback that we received. I want to go over a quick review of how property taxes in PA work. There's been some confusion around that. A quick history of West End, and then, like I said, that alternate funding solution. I have a bit on the fund balance policy at the end. That's going to be a separate discussion, but I had a couple things there I wanted to bring up as well. So jumping into email feedback. I went through and I just pulled a list of things that people had, like common through lines across all of them. So I just wanted to go through them down the line. I figured instead of addressing them ad hoc through our discussion, I figured it'd be easiest just to go through them up front. So first off, one of the common things that was being seen was that we defer this decision. We legally cannot do that. As Lori mentioned, we are legally bound to pass the budget by December 31st. New board does not come in until January 5th. That's not our decision. That's the state's decision, if anything else. That aside, that's how American politics work. People come in, they approve the budget for the next year, and then new members come in for no matter what level you're working at, from township up through federal. That's just
So
how
let me
civics work.
clarify, John, are you saying since we put this in place, we can't change it?
That's not what I
between
said.
now-
I said we were
okay.
bound to pass a budget by December 31st.
Okay.
We can't defer the decision. That is what was literally written in the text. I take the spirit of that possibly to be that we not pass a tax increase, in which case that would be an option, but it's not the one the board's currently pursuing or considering. Reevaluate the township resources in terms of alternate funding strategies. We have. I mean, honestly, that's really the case of it. We've looked at different things. Grants that got brought up a lot of times. We pursue a lot of grants, a lot of grants. That is a regular thing that we are talking about and pursuing. Unfortunately, historically, grants have been a great way for us. We could rely on them to a significant degree. They have been fairly reliable. If anyone follows the news, you shouldn't be surprised to hear that that's no longer the case. Who knows what things are going to look like over the next couple of years. We can't rely on them. We have to, not that we ever have relied on them, but really now we can't. We have to assume we're not getting any grant funding for anything we plan for. The lack of communication. This one, I mea culpa. We can do better on this. Well, I will say that we legally complied with everything. We did everything we were supposed to do. We advertised correctly, provided time for comment. We gave legally required heads up. There's probably places where we could have gone above and beyond that. Just because we were legally complied doesn't mean we couldn't do better. So, message received. I've already had discussions with, I think, everyone on the board at this point about how we can do that better going forward. So we will be making efforts in that direction. 2026 budget options with and without the tax increase. Like Lori mentioned, 2 of the 3 options we discussed didn't have a tax increase. Only one of them did. And we ultimately ended up going with the third one, or the technically version 2, that had a tax increase. Leveraging unassigned general funds to balance the budget. That is a nuanced, detailed question that we'll get more into as we discuss some of the alternate strategies here. There's no real simple answer to that. Suffice to say that in some circumstances it's okay, in others it's a very, very bad idea. We'll explore that some more when we go through some of the actual proposals. And then finally, migrate allocated funds to unallocated funds. That's just illegal. We can't do that. Once funds have been allocated, we can't move them back. That's the whole point of allocating them in the first place. So that was kind of like a lot of the questions. So some stuff in there we can absolutely do better. Some things that are just straight up illegal. Other things are just the function of how government works. Great. So moving on. All right, I want to do a quick review of property taxes in Pennsylvania because they are probably not intuitive, especially if you come from other areas. I know I was surprised to learn how this works growing up in Virginia, where things work very differently than here. So a quick review of what a millage rate even is. 1 mil is a 1/10 of a cent tax rate, or stated otherwise, it's a $1 tax on every $1,000 that your property is assessed property valuation. The important bit here, your assessed value is not your market value. These are two very, very, very different values. And I have an example in a couple slides, but that is the key point to take away from this. Your taxes are not marked up against or calculated against your market value. In terms of what taxes are being paid right now, this is just, again, just a general review. Phoenixville School District is charging 35-ish mils. I can't even read my own slides from here. Chester County is a little bit over 5, and Schuylkill Township is 3. So a total municipal millage tax rate of 42, or tax burden of 42 mils. 3 of that, and just to make that a little bit easier, I had got that infographic there that Lori made and is in another public presentation available on the website, demonstrating just how little we're pulling out of your overall municipal budget, let alone your overall tax burden when you start looking at state and federal. Fractions of a percent. So just a quick little visual there. Jump to the next slide. This is a very noisy chart. What this is showing right here is the historic township tax rates across every township within Schuylkill Township. Every township within Chester County. Now, I understand these are unlabeled. This is impossible information to make anything out of, other than what you will see is that lines are going up across the board. We are not the only ones that are increasing their tax rate. This is just how things, and I'll explain this in even more detail further on, but tax rates are going up across the board, and there's good reason for it. You'll also see that if you look at the slope of the lines, a significant number of these increases are 1 or well above 1 millage. So in terms of a significant tax increase, 1 mil doesn't qualify as far as statistical norms go. That is well within the average of what most townships are doing when they levy a tax increase. If we go to the next slide, it'll be a little bit more clear. You can see where Schuylkill Township lays. Towards the bottom of the graph, that flat line, except for a small 0.3 bump over the last 15 years. We have kept tax rates almost uniformly flat. There was that one 0.3 bump that happened in 2019. Now, the interesting part of property taxes. They're not going up because we have inflated budgets and we're constantly giving people more money and taking on more projects than we can handle. The issue is that the way that property taxes work is they're calculated against your assessed property value. What happens is that your assessed property value does not go up year over year. Your assessed property value stays flat. So, for example, if this chart here shows our income over the last 5 years from our property taxes, and you can see the income is fairly flat, column 2. We're looking at right around 2.1 million year over year. We don't see any increase. When you start taking inflation into adjustment, we're getting less and less money every year. We in 2021, we were getting $2,072,000, and the equivalent money in 2025, we got $1.7 million. That is a 15% decrease in our revenue. And yet, despite that, we have been managed to get along this long without any tax increase. That is why this is happening. This is why it's happening. And again, this is not unique to Schuylkill. It's not unique to Chester. This is a Pennsylvania-wide issue. This is how municipalities operate within the state. So as a quick example, this is my house. I didn't put my address up here because I'm not that dumb. But these are numbers for my own property. So I bought my house in 2019. It's a little over 2,000 square feet. It's about 2,200 square feet. It's a fairly average house. I bought it for $415,000 in 2019. My neighbors are currently selling their properties in my own neighborhood. They're pretty much the same house, same make and design, for $650,000. My county valuation is $139,000. My county valuation is a fraction of what my property is actually worth on the market. So when I'm looking by a 1 mil tax rate, I'm looking at a $139 increase, not a $650 increase. And monthly fees, we're looking at $11.50 per month. Now, I don't bring this up to just hand wave away taxes and say, who cares, it's not that much, you shouldn't, who cares if we charge more. I bring this up to highlight the fact that there is confusion around this, and a lot of people think that, oh, I'm paying taxes against what my house is worth, and my house is worth a lot. And that may be the case, but it's worth less when you look at county valuations as opposed to market value. So I just want to make sure that was clarified and understood by people because it is a confusing point. Great. So, moving on to the history of the Valley Forge Volunteer Fire Company and West End EMS. Just a quick note on their capital fund rates. So, historically, we have given the Valley Forge Volunteer Fire Company $200,000 in capital funding every year. That was what we were doing pre-2021. In 2021 through 2024, they didn't receive any capital funding, and in 2025, they received $100,000. We've talked about this before as the reasons for it. The really short version is that we were unhappy with how accounting was being done on their end. We asked them to improve their systems, and they did. This year, their accounting is now much more robust. It's in line with what we've been asking for. It's been a fantastic improvement. But I bring this up because they have functionally lost $900,000 over the last 5 years. Lost as in we have not awarded them what they would have otherwise received had we not had that complaint. If we hadn't changed it, etc. But by pre-2021 rates, if that had continued, they would have had $900,000 more within their capital fund right now. That's what they use to buy things like new fire trucks, which, as we discussed at other meetings, run for $1.8 million or so. These are not cheap apparatus. So, funding request. Again, fire department did a big long review on this, but the one slide overview is the fire department's requested $732,000 and West End has requested $127,000. Another thing I want to call out is that while we have historically funded the fire department, we have not funded West End EMS. This is a net new ask. It's also worth pointing out that West End EMS is the last EMS organization within Chester County to not receive municipal funding. Every other EMS has. West End is the last one not to. So that is what their funding request is. And before I jump into kind of my alternate proposal that I want to bring before the board, I want to invite Evan up. Anything you wanted to speak to or add? Or great, excellent. Okay, with that said, we can jump into the funding section. So as we discussed, or as we have discussed previously, we were talking about a 1 millage dedicated tax, again, dedicated explicitly, legally, and exclusively to funding the fire and EMS. 0.82 to fire department, 0.18 to EMS. That roughly equates to $700,000. It's about $703 and current property tax speculation, which puts them around $159,000 short of their request, of the total request for both combined fire and EMS. The upsides to this strategy is it establishes a long-term funding strategy for the fire department. It gives them a foothold to continue forward, especially as costs are only going to increase. And as we discussed, our property tax income is functionally going down. However, I've heard the complaints. I understand that people don't like getting a big fat tax increase right off the bat. And so what I have here is an alternate proposal. So what I did, or what Lori did really, what I asked her to do was to go through and say, okay, the fire department and EMS both have asked for operational funding and capital funding. So what is the minimum possible tax we could put in place right now to cover all of the operational costs, but none of the capital? So if you do that math, you end up at a 0.62 millage tax. So 0.47 goes to fire, 0.15 goes to EMS. That equates to about $436,000 in funds raised by property tax and brings us about $423,000 short of the total request from the fire department and EMS. Now, this is not a viable long-term strategy. If we adopted this and never changed it, our funds would be depleted within several years. It's a terrible position. However, it allows us to embrace the idea of gradualism. So the idea here is that we adopt a 0.62 for next year, and then going forward, we slowly raise that up by, say, 0.1 mils every year until we hit a target of 1. So instead of levying a larger tax burden all up front, we scale it out over several years. It allows people more time to be gradually onboarded to a new tax increase. However, this has significant impacts to our general fund. So, with all that said, oh yes, to fund to clarify, to fund that shortfall would be money that comes out of the general fund. So that is why a $423,000 shortfall as compared to 116 or whatever it was has a much larger impact on our general fund. Even if we do step this up every year, it's going to take us 5 years before we're at a point where we are at on par with the original solution. Great. So I have talked enough. Anyone else on the board want to have any feelings about either strategy, the original or the alternate? Would it be possible, Lori, to put that spreadsheet up on the share by chance?
John?
Yes.
So, I just wanted to echo, I have talked more about taxes with people in the past 2 months than I have probably in the past 4 years I've been on the board. I was really surprised that our property taxes haven't been reassessed by the county since 2000, I think it was
1997.
1997. And I think that was made in effect in 98. Where I grew up in New Jersey, our county reassessed taxes every year and they were 100% of market value. So
Same.
every single year, our taxes were reassessed. And so municipalities didn't have the optics of raising taxes because in effect, the taxes were being raised by the value, by the virtue of the fact that the assessed value is being tagged to market value. I sit on, for the board, I sit on the Phoenixville Regional Planning Committee, and so it's made up of 5 of our townships. We are not the only ones who are feeling the impact and the need for tax increases to fund fire and EMS. Phoenixville, which has a fully career, and I don't like using the word professional because our fire company is a professional fire company. They're just mostly staffed by volunteers. But Phoenixville, which has a mostly career fire department, has raised their millage rate that's specifically earmarked for fire EMS from 2.47 to 2.55 mils. That funds 7 full-time firefighters. East Pikeland is enacting this year a 0.3 mils EMS fire tax. And West Pikeland announced that they are instituting this year 1.5 millage increase for their police. And so this is not a problem that is unique to this township, unfortunately. And I think that, and I think this goes without saying, but we could be very easily in a similar situation to a borough like Phoenixville if we don't invest in this fire company. We have, operationally and through capital, because we financially benefit from the fact that it's a volunteer fire company and the fact that they took over West End EMS and are operating that again in a professional manner, but with significantly reduced costs than would otherwise be the case. So, thank you.
Just to expand on that too, Phoenixville's fire department budget is 1.5 million. We are not paying 1.5 million dollars. But if our volunteer fire company no longer exists, we are forced to go career. And now you're looking at basically funding a police department with very expensive cars. It is, no, I know, but I'm saying, but it would be like employing another police department.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of cost. So truthfully, it's something that needs to be done. Right now, the question is how. Perfect. Right as I was about to ask. So this is going to be hard to read. So in the effort of trying to, I guess you can zoom in on it. If you could just zoom in a little bit on the left side.
This year?
Yeah. And I can just give this a quick explanation. So in the effort of, again, trying to figure out what this alternate strategy would actually look like, and in the spirit of long-term planning, even though we're coming down to the last minute here, I threw together a quick spreadsheet that does some very naive projections into 2030. Please note the year column is off. That should be 2026 through 2031. It's off by 1 year. Could you zoom in a little bit more by chance? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can just grab in the budget strategy here. I can just explain what this is. So the basic idea here is, again, we started at 0.62 millage rate. This, again, being the absolute minimum we could charge while still keeping operational funds for fire and EMS fully funded. The idea then is we increase our annual millage by 0.1 every year until we hit a target millage rate of 1.0. Again, our per millage income is around $703,000. Our existing general fund balance is just over $6 million. That outstanding fire department cap funding, that's that $900,000 I was referring to before, where they're $900,000 short where they would have been otherwise had they been funded the last 5 years, fully funded the last 5 years. I also built in an annual operations increase at 5% because operations don't stay stagnant either. So operations are going to continue going up for them. So if you scroll to the right, Lori, this is all dynamic. So we can play with these numbers if we want to see what different numbers look like. Again, please excuse me, I messed up the years. The first row should be 26 and it should run to 31 as opposed to 25 to 30. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Thank you. Nothing like live editing a spreadsheet. So that second column there, that's funding requirements. So that is a 200. That is the capital fund request from the fire department EMS plus that 5% annual increase on operations. So that's why that funding requirement goes up every year. That's why it's only 655 this year and goes all the way up to 764 by 2031. The reason it's 655 and not 855 is because I calculated this off a $200,000 capital fund investment to match what they've gotten historically. And that deficit, or not deficit, but that 900 loss in opportunity is tracked separately. There's a dedicated column for that 900,000 they would have otherwise had. That next column, tax rate mills, 0.62, that's just taking the starting tax rate at 0.62, annually increasing it by 0.1 until you have one flat. Tax income, that is what we're looking at in terms of income, that is what we'd be getting for property tax income off this dedicated millage, explicitly this dedicated millage, not overall. And then funding delta is how short we are. So the interesting thing you'll note is even when we get all the way down to 2031, we're still not fully funding the fire department. And that's assuming capital requirements don't change. That's assuming a 5% increase in operations, which 5% is not a very safe bet, especially considering how high inflation is these days and considering what insurance rates are increasing like at this rate. It wouldn't be surprised if operations costs are increasing closer to like 7.5%. And then we have the final general fund balance. So this is assuming that their funding requests are 100% met and we fill that delta through a general funds transfer. So as we do that, the general fund goes down. You can see under this model, by 2031, the general fund will be down to 5.3 million. And then if we included that $900,000 payback, it would be down to 4.4 million. So this gets us 5 years into the future. We will end up functionally taking a $1.5 million hit to the general fund with still no clear path to full funding for the fire department, but it is a gradual onboarding to a millage tax increase. So that is the general thought process behind this. Again, we can play with these numbers. And again, we're setting a budget for 2026, not 2026 through 2031. So while we are within our full power to pass a millage rate for tonight, I have no say over what happens next year. It'd be up to the board next year to say, yeah, we still agree with this. Let's do a 0.1 increase. And for every board subsequently. But this is what I'm proposing as a alternate strategy for us to consider tonight, as opposed to a one mil tax rate right off the bat. Any questions from the board on this information?
John, first I want to say thanks for putting this together. It's a great planning tool. Mm-hmm. It's what I wish we had all seen and gotten in front of you guys a long time ago. As you said, we'll fall on the sword. We can do better. And this is a great tool to use going forward with a lot of other things that can be plugged into it, along with projects and other things that we'd like to fund. And I guess I'm looking down the mill rates, and I know we've talked about, and we'll be talking about a fund balance project policy later tonight. Mm-hmm. The research I came back with was 2 months is the minimum you want to see, and maybe 3 months up to 25%. I think we're talking maybe 40% in a balance that we want to have, which is $3 million. If we took the mill rate down to zero, I just want to show the public what that looks like for 26, all the way down. Let's see what that looks like going out 4 or 5 years.
So if you scroll to the left and then change the starting millage rate, this second 0.62, change that to 0, and then change the annual millage increase to 0.
Yeah,
that'll basically be what does our budget look like if we do not raise taxes at all. So by 2031, we're at $800,000.
So 2030, we're about 2.5 million, which is in line with best practices with what the
that's so
minimum best practices, Bob.
Yes,
minimum best. I
Yeah,
think was
you don't
15,
have a minimum in your checking
15
account,
18.
right?
I think we were talking last meeting, we were talking maybe 25 to get us through 3 months, which is more than the minimum. Maybe as much as 30 or 40%, we can all talk about that, but I think this is the venue to talk about that. So I guess what I'm missing, and this is what's baffling me, and I read all the emails as well, and a lot of folks have asked me, why would we do what we're doing? Maybe I'm missing something, but I keep coming back with the same question that you guys do. We're raising taxes before we've really finished evaluating how to use our existing surplus. We have a tremendous surplus that could help us balance the budget, right? So, again, hearing from you guys, a lot of hardworking folks that are concerned about paying your bills. You're confused, and I get it. A lot of this is being rushed. When it comes to a tax increase, one of the messages was in our first budget meeting that we're not talking about that tonight. At the very next meeting, we did. Communication blame on our part. Nobody likes surprises. This kind of tool 6 months ago would have been great. Going forward, I think we're going to do a lot better job with. We're talking about a 5-year plan where we can get out and show this to you way in advance and have you know what's going on. I'm not saying we shouldn't raise our taxes if we really need to. There's going to come a time, and this is good evidence to show that we're eventually going to hit the wall. You made a good point of what the value of the dollar is and how rare it is that they reevaluate prices. But before we do something that hits every taxpayer, I think it's reasonable to step back, slow down a step, use the tools we already have available, and then finish building the reserve policy and the long-term plan and come back and look at this. It's not critical that we have this increase right now. We've obviously got 5 years of buffer to work with. It just seems that we pause now, balance the budget with the surplus, finalize the reserve policy, improve our transparency and communication. I think it'd be a lot better received by the public. And I think we'll build trust, because right now there's a lot of people that are looking at us saying, why are you doing this? And I get it. There's a concern for trust. So if somebody can help me understand why we have to rush through this, what's the risk in taking a brief pause? Help me understand that.
I would just say that I know you keep saying this was rushed, but this is in keeping with the way that the township has passed taxes in the past. And in fact, the information that we've provided to the residents is far in excess of what was provided when taxes were last increased in 2020. And so in 2019, the board voted to increase taxes by 0.3 mils. That was not a dedicated tax. That was at the discretion of the board and general budgeting processes. And so I think that it's worth clarifying that, again, the township is not doing anything out of the ordinary or underhanded in passing this tax at this time. And in fact, we're providing far more information than boards in the past have done and in levying tax increases.
But I guess my question comes back to, if we have a massive surplus, why are we doing it?
It has to happen. There is no path forward with no tax increase. It
got-
has to happen.
It may have to happen over the next 5 years. We're acting like it's an absolute emergency now when we've got a huge surplus. Why aren't we using the surplus to balance the budget?
Because I take a long view. I'd rather set us up for success rather than burn down a road for no other reason than to just burn it down. It's also worth bringing up, we have other things that we need to pay for. That general fund is not general fund for fire and EMS. It's a general fund for the entire municipality.
So what
So
else
there are a
do
couple
we have
things-
things ear tagged for on that?
Sidewalk projects, we have 500,000 we still need to spend on that. That's assuming we don't get any grants. We have grants out for that, but we might not get them. $500,000 there. There's a Sedgley development project. I don't know what that's going to cost, but it's going to cost money. I haven't heard a single person say, let's do nothing with it. I haven't heard a single person say, let's sell it off. So we're going to do something with that. Now that can come out of open space. We could absolutely pay for it for open space. Now, if we did that though, now we can't acquire new properties. Maybe that's something we want to pursue, but if we have money in the general fund, now we can be flexible. Now we can make the choice as to whether or not we want to use open space for it, or if we want to use the general fund and keep ourselves available for new property acquisition opportunities. Bob, I know that's something you stressed a lot. your concern over the use of open space funds for Sedgley. This gives us the opportunity to not have to pursue that. We also have the municipal complex. That's going to be discussed in 2020 or 2026. That's going to be discussed next year. Regardless if we do nothing with it, we still have to do something with it. In terms of this building, we've been putting up years worth of repairs on this building under the idea that we were going to do something with it. So if we do nothing, we now have to go do a bunch of repairs on it. Who knows what those are going to cost? We haven't looked at that. There's also paving. Right now, we only do 2 miles-ish worth of paving across the entire township, and we reduced that to try and keep our budget and our costs down a few years back. If we ever wanted to actually increase our paving again, we need those funds to be able to do so. So those are some reasons. And then again, just general financial nimbleness. Yeah, we could pay down the general fund to pay for things that we are predictable are going to come, but then when the unpredictable costs come or that short-term opportunity presents itself, we're no longer able to capitalize on that. We put ourselves in a bad position. It's poor long-term planning. And I am a long-term thinker. I know that's political suicide, but that's where I'm at. That's how I've always been.
So I've got to read a statement here because we had a meeting and I have very serious concerns. I want to address an issue that I believe is critical to maintaining transparency and public trust as we move forward with discussions about, you just brought it up, the township building renovation and expansion. We've had how many meetings now? 13 meetings about that? 11, 12, 13?
We have had 13 meetings starting in April of 2022, starting with a conversation from the police department about the inadequacy of the police department space.
Okay, so we've had 13 meetings to focus on a scope. Most of those, or a lot of those, were done at workshops. We talked about the scope, the design, the wish list. We started to narrow in on that, or to zero in on that. But we've had no meaningful public discussion about how the project would be funded. And that deserves equal attention, and I'm very concerned about that. In my view, the funding mechanism is just as important as the project itself. Our residents deserve to understand exactly what options we are considering before the board spends another penny on that or takes any action that commits taxpayer dollars to that. I feel it would not be responsible nor transparent to begin approving or structuring any funding approach without first presenting all viable options to the public and giving them a sufficient time to review, digest, and comment, whether the funding involves reserves, borrowing, tax adjustments, grants, or a combination. Our community has the right to see information, understand the implications, and participate in the decision-making process. There's $750,000 that we're going to be voting on later tonight that's being transferred from our general fund to that project. Did anybody know about that?
Oh, no, there's not.
No, there's not.
Yeah, it says it in our, there's a
Then you're reading it wrong.
$750,000.
That's what was transferred last year.
Last year.
So is there anything being laid out for that this year? Because
You
that,
all haven't decided yet.
okay, well, I don't want to see
That's-
a penny
that's on
go
our
toward
agenda.
that
That's
because
just a copy of the resolution that the board adopted.
in the
at end of
discussions that I've
2024.
heard, there has been absolute discussions of transferring that money over out of the general fund to that
That
project.
has always been an option, yes, but we
No.
haven't voted on anything.
We-
We haven't even discussed it.
Well, we were going to discuss it according to the September minutes at the budget. We decided not to. I have a concern. For that reason, I can't support any action on that tonight, and I want to make sure that's not on the table, that we're not going to be talking about raising your taxes and then funding a project. Well, I have it in the resolutions.
Yeah,
Listed as
and we're not
$750,000
we're not
transfer.
talking about.
That's a copy, that's a template. That's why it's
So
in
that's the
red, because
template, but we
number
have it in
hasn't
this
been
year's
really-
template also, but we're not going to use that. Because
well,
that's
you guys have to
that's
give me-
what's in my,
Yeah, that's why it's in
It's a placeholder
red.
number.
That's how we do it every single year. Every single year,
okay.
the template is exactly the
Because we
same.
haven't decided on a number yet, if we're even gonna do anything.
But that's what we unanimously voted to transfer last December.
Okay.
Up to,
So
not,
what-
not to exceed amount.
One of
That
the
depends.
concerns that when you say we might have projects that we might need it for, I don't agree that we stockpile money without first identifying what it's supposed to be used for. And researching this, one of the And when a township has a very large surplus without a policy, without things clearly earmarked, what it does, it reduces transparency. Residents can't see why money is being held. Perception is that we're being overtaxed or having tax increases without a cause. Lack of long-term planning, John, you mentioned that. Pressure on future boards or this board to spend money quickly or unwisely without proper communication to the public. I'm concerned about all these things, and when I think about having that much money sitting there and saying, hey, we're going to have a tax increase when we're already running massive surplus, I just can't make those. The math doesn't math to me.
We're
And I
not
get it, you want to have
running
a
a massive
long-term plan
surplus.
way out. And I agree there's things that need to be done in this building. And I agree that we should get in front of you guys and have a lot more meetings about the funding required for that and how we're going to get it. But to say we have a mass amount accumulated, maybe we'll use it for that, that's just not the right way to do it. It's not proper planning. It's not best practice.
So for, real quick, for one, we're not running a surplus. We are not running a massive surplus. We have funds in the general fund. That doesn't mean we're running a surplus. That means in previous years, we have managed to, and we have put that money into the general fund. We are not currently. And in fact, last year, when we talked about our budget, which you were here for, the comment from Lori herself was that this is the greatest carryover we've ever had in our budget, and we are likely going to have to start considering a tax increase. Now, generally, what I really don't appreciate is you grandstanding about this when you've been a part of these processes for the last several years. You've had 3 years to say, let's talk about funding sources.
I've
of the
been saying
municipal
this from day
project.
one when we came up to the municipal project of how are we going to fund this when we're talking about being upside down. I've been saying that from day one. And nobody wanted to talk about funding. You know, and we have meetings at the Reeves and everyone's saying, don't worry about money. I'm saying, guys, we have to have an equal percentage of discussion about funding, where we are financially, and what we can project out. When you project a huge plan and then come back later and say, let's transfer funds. And you guys, we've discussed it. I've sat and heard, hey, we can move money. We can take this money out of the general fund and do this project. And maybe have a tax increase for these guys, maybe create more surplus. It's just the wrong way to do it. And the public is sensing something's wrong, and you're right. Something's wrong.
We are not raising taxes for fire and EMS to pay for the municipal building. You're beating around the bush at that, and I'm going to call it out right now. That's not what we're doing.
John, I sat in,
If that's your
in on a
implication-
meeting where that was discussed
No.
specifically for that
Show me in the
cause.
budget. I have told you this to you so many times. You are misunderstanding how
Okay.
that conversation went. And if that were the case, you would be able to pull up the budget right now, point out the line items where that's the case. That is an objectively verifiable fact. I can't see how that's the case in the budget. And if it were, educate me.
Right there's your education. You got $6 million. We got $2.5 million in the municipal complex fund. That's about 10 times what we use annually. The $6 million is what, 80%? When we're supposed to be recommended to 15-20%?
That's
a
not
lot of money that could be used to balance the budget.
Bob,
That's what we should be
The
doing.
15-20% is not accurate. You're misquoting it. There is a minimum, no less than amount, but the recommendation, because we have a public bond, we need to maintain a good rating, or our debt service, the amount we pay to maintain that bond, which we took out to pay for Sedgley, will go up, and we will have to spend
So-
more taxpayer money if you do not keep a certain amount in your
Okay.
general reserve.
So are you saying the bond that we have for Sedgley could be readjusted?
Yes.
Yes.
No, that
As we've
bond's
been
locked.
saying.
I believe
No.
that is locked,
If
that
we-
once you have it, you're locked for future bonds, right?
If our bond rating changes, our payment could go up.
So what are the odds that our bond ratings are going to change if we move this, and what percentage will it go up?
I have to file continuing disclosure on our bond on an annual basis, and that's what they look at. They look at your projected budget, they look at your top 10 taxpayers, which we haven't gotten to that yet, but our property tax valuation went down for 2026, so they'll look at that and see that our projected income is lower.
So
And the 40% for the fund balance policy came directly from PFM, who's the township's financial advisor, who helped us get the bonds.
So again, if we lost the AA and went back to an A, what's the difference
We
in
didn't have
percentage?
any rating before. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I don't know. A financial advisor would have to do that.
But that would be
calculation.
the normal.
But the interest our interest rate would go up, which would mean our repayment schedule would increase. So that
So
would be,
I did some math on a AA down to an A, and it's normally about 0.25%. So on a $10 million bond, that would be what broke down to about $8 per household to cover that 0.25% if it went up. We're talking about a heck of a lot more than that. if we have a tax increase.
Well, Bob, one of the things that you had also mentioned was that, yes, if you want to have options for future funding, right? So the option for future funding, if we continually don't have enough reserves at 40%, would higher interest burden in the future as well. And then that would be an additional burden due to that fiscal management that would be placed on our taxpayers. And then it would be $8 on top of $10, and it could go up if you take out further bonds. So I won't be part of the board then, but if the future board decides to take out more debt service or even a loan, all of that will play a factor, including the general reserves.
So I
And
get
remind
that.
everybody that we always need 30% or 3 months worth of the budget and funding, because the majority of tax money to our township doesn't come in until April. And if it comes in on time, 100% that we need by April, we're okay. But if we have not enough money to pay the police and the fire and the road department and everything by February, then all of a sudden we are in a shortfall. But if we have an emergency on top of that, we are in trouble.
So I'm not
So we
opposed.
need to have at least 3 months, and we're talking about 4 months worth, 40%. That gives us a tiny bit of wiggle room for emergencies. And to me, that would be better fiscal township. And I'm
So-
saying this the resident because it's my last meeting along with Martha.
So I'm looking at that, the 2 month to 3 month. 3 months is 25%. 4 months is 33%. We're very safe at 40%, probably higher than I would recommend we go. But even at that, that's $3 million. 40% of our budget is $3 million. Again, I look up at this wall and I see that we're going down to the year, what was that, 2030, 2031. Is
So-
it 6, 7, 8, 9? So we could go 4 years without really getting in a crunch. That's my point. I get long-term planning, I'm all about it. I think we're jumping quickly and we're surprising people with a tax increase dropped on them at the last second in a budget meeting after they were told we weren't going to have one or weren't going to discuss it. I think that's wrong. I think we owe it to you guys. You voiced your opinion more than I've ever seen to say we're not okay with this. And I hear you. You're our boss. You're the shareholders, the taxpayers. It's our job to listen to you and respond accordingly. And again, I appreciate you adjusting this down. I do. I think we can all see we're going to be up against it down the road. I just like a lot more communication, a lot more planning, a lot more discussions, and looking back and really studying 5 years, looking ahead 5 years like we're starting to do. And I think we're moving too quickly to jump this and say, let's do it. And we don't have to have the 1 mil increase. We actually could pull that and pass the budget with everything else that's there. We'd have to have a 10-day notice for that, I believe it is, right? To say, let's go forward. We'd have to move quick, but it can be done.
No, I would say, and let's just keep it really simple math, right? And we're talking about this general reserve fund, and I know we haven't gotten to the discussion about the general reserve fund. Right now, we try to target that we're going to have 100% of what we need to keep the township operating during the year. We are talking about later in the agenda a general fund balance policy, which the township has never had, and what that should look like, whether it should be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, what that should look like. But let's just keep it really simple. Say that we have, say it's, we decide on 40%, right? And we have an imaginary number of $100 that's left. Okay, that's excess of that 40%. That's constitutes the 60%. Okay. It doesn't change anything that our tax revenues are here and our costs keep going up and there's a delta and that delta increases every year. Okay. And so it might be tempting to say, we have a shortfall. Let's take some of that $100 and pay the fire department with it. So we pay the fire department $20 this year. Next year, we've got $80. We pay another $20 to the fire department. Now we've got $60. We pay another $20 in year 3 to the fire department. Now we've got $40 and so on and so on. And eventually we have zero. And we haven't changed the fact that we at some point need to raise taxes to fund the fire department. All we've done is kicked that can down the road 5 years. And instead of having a gradual tax increase, we're having a significant tax increase. And I'm a regulatory attorney. I deal with public utility rate making, and I understand the concept of gradualism, where you try to not have rate shock for clients or for constituents. The problem, one of the other problems I have with just the kicking the can down the road approach is that if we do adopt, and we don't have a general fund policy, but if we did adopt a general fund policy, which freed up some of those funds, we didn't keep them in the bank, we didn't treat them like a savings account, we could potentially invest, and I think this is kind of what, Bob, you're talking about, we could potentially invest that money and then generate revenue from it and use that revenue to fund things. So again, you can either take a little piece of that money every year and fund the fire department, or you could raise taxes, which you're going to have to do anyway, and then take what's left of your general fund, you know, the excess, it's not really excess, that whatever, 60%, and invest it on behalf of the taxpayers. And it makes more financial sense to do that. And again, I'm not a career politician. This is a public service for me. If I cared about getting reelected, because I'm going to be up for my primary next year, I would say kick the can down the road, right? Because it does not serve me to tell you the truth that we have to raise taxes. But I don't care about being reelected, and if I'm not reelected because I'm telling you the truth, that's fine. But I'm not going to tell you it's okay to just deplete the general fund to pay for things that we need to pay for when we have declining revenue every year.
So a question for you. If we don't deplete the general fund and we allow it to stay where it is, according to what I'm reading, that's not good practice to have that money sitting without it being ear tagged. We don't have it ear tagged for anything. We have possible things we might want to spend it on.
No, actually,
that may-
Bob, it's
that
just
may
the
or may not.
opposite.
What do
It's
we
just-
ha- what
it's
do we
just
have
the
it ear
opposite.
tagged for?
When you keep it in the general fund, it's actually a good thing to not have it earmarked for anything in case something does come up. If, let's just say, there's an open space property that we're interested in and we don't have enough money in the open space fund to pay for it, we can take that out of there and pay for that. We could take it and pay for a road that was washed away by, I'm going to pick on you, Hurricane Bob, and it comes and washes away a road and we have to pay for that. We have all that extra in there where we don't have, if we put it in a very specific fund, it has to stay there. If we leave it in the general fund, we have the flexibility to be able to use it wherever we need.
That's true, but that's where that 25 to 30% comes from that they recommend. So
No,
you have that if you
that-
need it.
that-
You get up to 5-6 million.
The 25, 30% is for emergencies, and it's to fund your first 3 months of your year, okay?
That's untouchable money.
That's
Untouchable money.
untouchable
Your
money.
floor
What we're
is
talking about
20%.
is the money over that we could spend on anything else.
Well, again, having too much is a concern, just as much as having not
But
enough.
we don't have too much.
We're at the point where we're saying we have quite a bit more, but we want to have a tax increase. And again, I get what you're saying, Danielle. It's good to not kick the can down the road, but it's also good to get in front of the people well in advance and explain our situation and do a lot more of this and say, okay, we're going to have to make an adjustment. Let's be honest with you. We can see it coming. We know that the fire company is going to have a lot of expenses. We know that some things need to be done to this building to bring it up to code, to have a locker room, a ladies' bathroom for the police, to have things brought up to current standards, ADA, code issues, that kind of thing. But I get that, and I think that needs to be communicated much better, well in advance, and minimized to run as lean as we can. And I'm concerned because I just feel we could do a lot better planning. I don't think we need to have this tax increase right now. That's my position. I think it can be much better thought out and can be addressed next year with a lot better communication to the public. Would you guys agree? Is that what the public would rather see?
I think that this point, what was it, 0.6?
0.62.
0.62 is much better than the 1 mil and getting the 900,000. back to the fire company out of our general fund and put it into the fire company because we didn't give the fire company that money over the past several years for other reasons, which we don't need to get into this evening. I think that this sets up future boards to the opportunity to do exactly what you're saying, Bob. I agree with that. But I think that this sets a future board up to be able to do that. And my microphone just ran out of battery. So I think it's time for me to shut up.
I would just add, there's nothing on the agenda tonight. So say we passed a general fund policy that required us to keep 40% for that emergency, keeping the lights on, making sure we have enough money to pay the bills, making sure we have enough money the first 3 months of the year. There's nothing that is requiring us to do anything in particular with the rest of that money, that other 60, tonight. That decision will be for the board next year. Next year, the board could decide, you know what I want to do with that extra 60? I want to buy more open space, or I want to put sidewalks all over the township, or I want to, I don't know, whatever issues come up. But if the money is not there because we haven't raised taxes for the fire department and we keep chipping away at that money, that definitely provides the board of tomorrow and next month with less flexibility as to what they do with that money.
Let's think about this different. Let's think about this differently, Bob. What is your path forward in 2030? We have no tax increase tonight. What are we doing in 2030?
So my path forward would be to have meetings like this with proper planning where we communicate well in advance and say, guys.
No.
we
I'm
need-
asking.
we
I'm
need
not
to make
asking
an
for.
adjustment,
I'm not asking for hand
but
waving. I'm asking for concrete solutions. I'm saying, looking at that, we are massively in the hole. What do you propose given our limited
20
funding strategies as a municipal
So
township?
between 2026, 7, 8, 9, and 30, over the next 5 years, probably next year, we really put good planning together. And yes, we then get
Planning
in front
for
of the,
what?
then we get in front of the people and say, okay, we're running as lean as we can. Here's everything we've got. We're going to have a tax increase at some point. When do you want to do it? What makes sense? We'd have to really study that.
So it sounds to me like regardless, we're going to end up with a tax increase.
Eventually, yeah. If what you're showing me is real, we're heading
Yes,
toward a wall.
it's real,
Absolutely.
and that is a best case pie in the sky level speculation. The actual case is way worse than that.
That also, this does not take into account,
A lot of things.
yeah,
This
actual
is
projected-
extremely naive, and it
So-
does not include very many other
This is
factors.
just
So
showing
let
the
me-
fund
let me
balance,
ask
not
you from
showing the regular
2022.
general fund expenditures increasing.
Correct.
Like, we're
yeah.
not looking at, we don't have a full 5 year.
Yeah,
This
that's-
is just,
Yeah, that does
So-
not take everything else into account.
So from 2022 to 26, how much have we gone up in our general fund? We've gone up $3+ million. How are we escalating in that fund?
The general fund balance?
Yeah, what was the balance back in
It's-
21?
But it's based at 100% of what we're spending. So it's target, it matches what we spend for the budget for the year.
But
So
the
it
balance
increased-
itself has gone up year after year,
so,
or
Martha-
quite a bit over the years.
Martha might be the best person to explain this because I know that the balance was woefully underfunded when you became a township supervisor, Martha. And then you guys engaged in financial planning to make sure that we weren't in a risky financial position. Do you know at what point we had the general fund balance funded at 100%?
100% to what?
Of our
I don't know.
expenses?
So you mean
Of our-
matching,
Yes.
having everything before we start for 100% of what the year would be?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about, Bob.
That's not the goal, to have 100% in surplus, at the balance for the year. I mean, that's not what the recommended goal is according to what I'm seeing
No,
as
you're
best
right.
practices.
That's not what was recommended, but that was what the board, at the time that we set up the general fund reserve fund, wanted to do. And that's what we strategized to do over the years.
To get it up to 100% of the annual spend ahead of
Yes.
time. Okay,
And to also increase the municipal complex fund and the cap roads fund. And the capital police fund. I'm sorry, capital fire fund. I apologize.
I mean, I'd like to hear some of what the folks have to say, but if you guys have anything else.
But with that said, we did not make that a formal policy. When we started that, we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to do that. So we didn't make it an official policy until this year because we just didn't know. We had no idea what it was going to be like. And when we budget with deficits, I don't want to say deficit, that's not correct. When we budget with a carryover and at the end of the year we have surpluses, there's a number of reasons for that.
Yeah, and I can say that right now, I know I said, we're at 84% of our expenditures, 60 or 90, 102% of our revenues for this year. I think you mentioned the carryover that we adopted the budget with for 2026. And the reason that resolution for the fund balance transfer is it's going to be way different than it was last year, because last year at this time we were running a much better surplus. As of right now, we only have about a $516,000 surplus, and that's gonna go down. We have 2 more payrolls this year. We have big expenditures for the end of the year with the police department and other expenses. So we are not going to end 2025 with much of a surplus. Hopefully, we won't have to actually use that $491,000 in carryover. I don't expect that we'll have to use 100% of that for sure, but it might be that this year we do actually have to cut into that. So we are not running much of a surplus compared to other years.
I would just like to say again, like your hypo before, we're going to, if we get, and I'm reading from, and this is something I sent email to all of you. I know that the article wasn't very easy to read because of the way that it's formatted, but this is an article from Government Finance Review from 2023, and they talk about what percent the bond rating is based on your available fund balance ratio, and it's about 20%, and then your liquidity, the amount that you have in the bank, is about 10%, and so that could affect 30% of your total rating methodology. Now you mentioned, well, if we're downgraded, if our bond is downgraded, that only is going to cost each township resident about $8. And I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't check your math. It shouldn't be the same for everybody because, well, maybe it is because it's an earned income tax bond. But in any case, say it's $8. It's $8 that everyone's paying for nothing, no benefit, like literally no benefit. Whereas the tax that we're proposing goes to the fire department.
There's a lot of ifs connected to that bond. If we need to run another bond, if we get down rated or derated, whatever, there's a lot of ifs that might result in a couple dollars a year. There's an absolute if we do that. It's a big difference.
There's an absolute regardless, Bob. We have to pass a tax at some point. It is happening.
If
we
that,
can talk
if
about
that
it
is
till the cows
accurate,
come home.
we just saw that come through, and I've got a lot of questions on it. I like it. I think we're on the right path. But, over the last 4 years, we've gone up and up and up in our general fund balance. So I get it. We're probably, if prices keep going up, if our taxes are through inflation worth less, I get it.
And we have
This
to
is
hope
something
that
that
it
needs a
doesn't
lot more
snow.
studying.
Yes, we've gotten very lucky
Yeah.
the last few years. We've probably saved $1 million in snow plowing costs. That
Sure.
alone accounts for a massive increase in that. For
The
all we
other-
know, we'll wake up next year with blizzard on top of blizzard.
And that's the other factor that I didn't mention when I was just talking about where we are year to date on the budget is we haven't paid for any snow removal yet this year. The other thing that contributed to our general fund balance increasing though was also the American Rescue Plan Act money that was about $900,000 that we got, and that's a one-time thing. Now some of that was used for special projects, but the remainder of that balance just went into our general fund. And money that we use, or projects and things that we use that American Rescue Plan Act fund for was money that we then by default didn't spend out of the general fund. So that also was a factor. We also got it was either 2024 that we saw that reimbursement come through from FEMA for about the $500,000 for the hurricane. So that also
So
That's right. I
that
forgot
also
about that
contributed
one.
to
Yeah.
the large surplus that we had. So those are those one-time revenues that we saw that contributed, in addition to the fact that we weren't funding the capital account for the fire department.
But we still had to spend that money before we got it back.
Correct, yes.
And
You are
because
correct.
we
That was
had a
reimbursement.
healthy general fund reserve fund,
We were able to
we
do
were
that.
able to do that.
You're exactly right. That was a reimbursement, so I don't mean to say that that was extra money. It was a
Right.
reimbursement for money that we had
Right.
spent previously.
But
out
we
of
wouldn't
our
have been able
capital
to
and
do
general
the
funds.
things that we did to make those repairs
Correct.
if we did not have a healthy general fund
Yeah.
reserve fund. And again, having it in the general fund makes it so that we can be flexible about where we want to put it. It doesn't matter. If we move it into any specific fund, it has to stay there.
So going back to what I see in resolutions, the 750,000 that was put into the general fund for municipal complex, that was this time last year, you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we all voted.
All right,
And we
I
all
see it in,
voted
I see it
on
in
that
today's resolution,
unanimously.
so it looks like it's going to
We
be.
just carried over, we use the same language every year, so that's why I think, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I think the amounts are in red.
They are,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because we hadn't discussed
Okay,
it yet. So
didn't
it's
call that out, but
simply
okay.
It's simply a copy of the same one we do every year, and then at this meeting, you discuss it, and I tell you where we're at in the budget, and you give me the not to exceed amount. Last year, we had more money than usual, so the board prioritized putting more money than we typically had into the municipal complex fund because we're working on the renovation. But that is from last year. That was not,
Got it.
I would just say, with respect to your proposal, I really, John, this was a lot of work, and I appreciate you doing this. I personally feel that we need a 1 mil tax increase to fund the fire department. They do an admirable job, but you cannot buy a fire truck with a bake sale. It's not fair. They bust their asses doing the pancake breakfasts, the soup sales, everything, right? They send the mailers out. That money is decreasing year by year. I thought everybody gave a check. No, that's not the case, right? So it's not, the money's not coming from anywhere else. Okay, even if we don't do anything, if we do nothing, we shutter this building, we mothball it, okay? And I don't know why this keeps getting conflated with the municipal project, but the money needs to come from somewhere to fund the fire department, and we get less money every year because our revenues don't match inflation. So I would vote for the 1 mil increase in taxes. I appreciate the concept of gradualism as a compromise. I would be willing to support the 0.62. I think it's important to note that the reason that 0.62 is 0.62 is because we can't fund, we shouldn't be funding capital out of the, can you explain
General
that?
fund.
Out of the general fund, because that could affect bond ratings, but we can fund the operating expense.
No,
Other way around.
The opposite.
Other way around.
Opposite.
You can fund
We can fund
general.
capital, we can't fund the operating expense, and so that's why the 0.62 is the 0.62.
I actually like the 0.62 with the stepping, because it is one of the things that residents did mention, that, doing something gradual.
oh,
So if we did the 0.62, we would still do, in addition to that, the 900,000 from the general fund reserve into their capital.
That's up for discussion. So I mean, what I had up there was the two final columns were the general fund and the general fund with back pay. The with back pay is accounting for that 900,000. I mean, we could amortize that over several years. We could pay it all right now. Like, there's different strategies. They don't want to complicate it too much, but generally speaking, I'm in favor of getting them back to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And because we were able to get some paperwork from them finally and a budget from them finally.
Even
Now
on the
that we're-
way out your door.
No, that's one of the reasons why we stopped it. We stopped it because we didn't know what they needed because they weren't telling us. And now that
Right.
we do, I'd like to get us back to where we were.
And that would be addressed, we could address that in the approval of resolution 2025-29 transfer of funds?
Yes.
Is that where we would address that? And
Yes.
that's where we put the 900,000 to the fire department?
Yes, I believe we could handle that in the same resolution. I just want to double check the language in there to make sure it doesn't.
I'm just trying to figure out where that gets effectuated on the agenda.
It doesn't say that it's,
It's up here.
an annual budget surplus. Unencumbered monies, yeah. Mike will tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that we could use it, I could think we could do it in the same resolution.
We could, we need to add it in.
We would add it in,
It says
yeah.
surplus funds in the title.
John, did you have some other idea of where we were
Yeah, I think it would be
transferring that
okay.
funds, or is this
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vehicle to transfer those?
No,
funds?
that's the vehicle. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That was gonna be the part 2 discussion of like, let's land on what we're gonna decide on for the budget and then how much additional we want to do for capital funds.
Yeah, that
through,
resolution was simply a template, so both,
So
the
we can-
funds
yeah, yeah.
and the amounts are always up
Yeah.
to the discretion of the board.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I'd like to point out too, this is something that we have never done in this township as long as I have been here. If a future board does find that we have too much money, which I don't think they will, they can always give millage back. It is, but it can.
There are.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
but they
hold off.
can.
Let's hold off on public comment,
Yeah.
please.
But they can.
It is one of the concerns that I was reading about. The use it or lose it mentality is a concern. If you have it, you find things to spend it on, and they warned against that.
There have been other townships in Schuylkill, in Chester that have reduced their millage rates. It has happened.
East Pipeline has done it
Mhm.
a few times.
Yep. There are townships that have done it. It's not impossible.
I mean, one example of when you might do it is if the county reassess the property values.
Yeah, and historically, when that does happen, it comes with a requirement to reduce millage rates. Great. I think we've covered all this. Andy, I know you're sick. I don't want to put you on the spot, but anything else you want to add to this discussion before we move on?
No, I just would like to add that, I respect some points that brought up, but I also agree with much of the board that we have done what we could to try not do this, but this seemed to me the right course. And I also don't like putting expenses forward another board to say you're gonna have to do that because by this time next year it might be a 1.5 millage increase if we have a bad snow year, right? And yeah, we would have to say ifs, but Bob, you talk about a 5-year plan. That's all it is a bunch of ifs, right? A 5-year plan is not concrete because things can change after 2-3 years. Best guess of what you have going forward. So I don't need a rebut. I'm just going to say that I agree that I hear everybody's concern about the increase in tax. I do think that the graduated program that you put forth, John, is a great compromise to reduce the balance of our general fund in line with a measured drawdown of it that still gives us some flexibility and gets us toward smaller rate increase with a graduated step up.
Thank you, Andy. I'm sorry you feel awful. With that, any closing thoughts before we move on? All right.
Do you want me to summarize, because I did make one change to the proposed budget.
Oh yeah, if you want to address that one change, yeah, that'd be good.
And then, so from the budget that was advertised, so since that time, I got our and I mentioned this earlier, I think, but I did get our real estate tax valuations for the 2026 fiscal year from the county, and our valuation went down by about 4 million. So I did, and that's due to some large parcels in the township petitioning for a tax reassessment and being granted it. So although some of those have gone through and they're, I'll say final, there are some that are being appealed by the school district, so we'll see where they land. But based on where we're at right now on our property tax revenue, and given the decrease in the valuation for next year, I did reduce the projected budget for that line item from, I had it budgeted at 2.15 million, and I reduced it to 2.110 million for 2026. So I reduced that projected revenue.
Do we have the ability to appeal also alongside the school district?
So actually, let me clarify. So it wasn't the school. Oh, I'm sorry. So to clarify, for that large parcel, it wasn't, it's worse. It wasn't the school district that appealed. It was the property owner that appealed, saying that even though it was reduced, it wasn't reduced enough.
District hasn't appealed.
School district is fighting the current appeal, but hasn't appealed the first reduction.
My question is, can we also appeal?
I think the time for doing so is past, and likely we can talk offline in terms of the basis for it, but I wouldn't have us appeal.
Because of the merit. Okay,
Yeah.
without saying, okay. So that's $200, that's 200,000 less in revenue that we're going to get next year? 200,000, is that what you said?
Estimated, yeah.
About, okay, 200,000 less that we will get for.
Yeah, and we try to budget conservatively here. I know that's always been our strategy, and we have not hit the amount that we were budgeting for that, and we've, in the last several years, have never hit that amount. So it just didn't feel responsible to keep that amount, and so I reduced it to be a little bit more realistic with what we actually see. And maybe we'll get lucky. So that takes based on the version 2 that you all have been working off of with no other changes, that leaves the 2026 budget with a projected carryover amount that's increased now to $87,490.
Can you explain what a carryover amount, because it sounds like a good thing.
It does. It
It's-
is
and-
misleading
But
terminology.
it's not a good thing, so just explain what a carryover amount is.
It is effectively an interfund transfer from our unallocated general fund, reserve fund, to balance the budget. So it's a transfer of the monies that we're talking about that are in the reserve fund because our revenues, our expenses are exceeding our revenues.
That is on paper for the budget. It's not actuals.
Correct, that's the
Okay,
projected budget.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, and we do historically budget conservatively, but you see where we are right now at this point in the year. We're about, we have a $492,000 carryover in the 2025 budget, so that has to come off of whatever surplus we're running. So that's where that 500,000 comes from.
Any other questions or comments from the board on the budget? All right. For clarity's sake, for the audience in attendance today, we won't actually vote on the budget till the end of the meeting when we get to the resolutions and ordinances section, and we'll vote on the actual resolution itself. That's how we approve the budget, is by resolution. However, we have a number of other things to get through. So in the effort of not making you have to sit through that, if you don't like to, I wanted to open up to public comment now for any comment on the budget specifically and what we've been discussing tonight. So if anyone has any comment, they're more than welcome to come. Got to come to the microphone though, because we're recording it. Or someone can pass them the microphone. I'm fine with that too.
No, you have
Say-
to go to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry, it's
Yes,
because we're recording it. Apologies. The usual name and address, please.
12 Gersten Road, 60 Beacon Hill. Your example of your house, how much is $1 mil?
For me, $139.
Thank you.
Come on up. You guys are free to come to the microphone when it's open. I'm not going to bother calling on you, so feel free to just jump up when you're ready. No problem.
465 Freedom View Lane. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you because I sit on the board and multiple boards. This is a nightmare. Trust me, I understand that. And John, I really appreciate what you just did and showed everybody. I was in financial planning for 25 years, strongly believe in budgeting, not having things just come out by surprise. I am completely opposed to the 1% increase millage right now. I'm not saying that that may not happen over time. My position, take it or leave it, is that you use some of the money out of the general funds to take care of this shortfall. In the coming months, in the new year, not because it's a new board, but because we're finally getting some transparency and getting people, I think, to understand better what you need this money for, that you then, in 2026, lay it out. I understand the constraints you're under, all the rules, that you start your budgeting in June, you get blah, blah, blah. But if you can start in January and start presenting this stuff to the residents so that we can understand it. I love police and fire and EMS, and I live right down the street from them, so I want them still there. But I want to understand what that $700,000 is going towards, okay? I feel terrible that we haven't funded them for a number of years. I understand all the reasons that we didn't. But I think it's a bit of and this is a knee-jerk reaction to a budget shortfall in a 3-month period, as far as I can see. And so I did like your reduction at the 0.62 or whatever it is. But I think it would be better served for the public if we took this up in January. You passed a 0 increase, you funded everything through the general fund, and then move forward. Our bond rating isn't changing. I spent years in business. If we draw this down to 40%, we're still not going to bond problem. Everybody in the bond business knows you have the power to tax. So if your bond rating falls, you're going to pass a tax increase.
Just to clarify, we had said that the 40% is to not have it go down.
Right.
So it would be if you were at 15 or 20%.
Right, and I agree. I don't want to see it 15 or 20%. And I agree that you should also have this general fund not sitting in a 0% interest rate. So those, I think, are all things that you have to talk about next year. So rather than rushing to a 1 mil increase, get back to how are you using the general fund? Earmark projects so that you have a 5, 6, 10-year budget, right? So you're laying out a 5-year. I love that. It's awesome. But then in 2027, you come back and you look at it and you're going on another 5 years and say, okay, these are the things that happened. We had a year with no snow. We didn't do this. But then also come back to the public. First of all, I'm hearing about sidewalks.
Oh, no, that's the project that's been going on for 4 or 5 years.
Okay, well,
2019.
yeah. I've heard of it.
Actually, even
Yeah.
before then, it's been going
Yeah.
on since like 20. And it goes back.
That's
Paul,
my
when did
piece,
you come on
and
board?
That's where I'm coming from, and I think all my neighbors, met with all of them, they're in the same boat. We understand it. I get inflation, I get your insurance is going up, I get all of that. But to all of a sudden, in a 2-month period, come up with this taxation without everybody seeing this over and over again. If we had seen those slides all year long, or this has been going on over the last 5 years, that would have helped. So thank you for your time.
I just wanted to say, so I believe that this is on the website.
It is.
So it does explain, this is Valley Forge Fire Company, but 2026 budget request. So it's on the township's website. If anybody wants to see it, it goes into detail as to what they would be spending the money
Great.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you. The two things I'll respond to for that as well is we do plan to do a 5-year plan. That is something we, like Bob's pushed for, and we've already talked about having that as a workshop. Absolutely going to do it. Same to your point on possibly investing the money for a better long-term strategy. So it is on our radar. The other thing I want to call out too, the funding requirements for Valley Forge and EMS is an emergency. I absolutely understand the fact that that has not been communicated clearly. However, even in the last couple of years, I've been part of this board, going and speaking with other township supervisors and other municipalities. This is emergency across the board. Everyone is having problems with this. It is a common problem. I understand the communication failure on that not getting expressed to residents, but everyone else on this side, like, this has been something that's been on our radar for decades. People have been talking about this. So, but point taken all the same. Thank you very much. Why did he steal our mic?
Batteries.
Batteries right now. Okay.
They don't want to talk either.
Without a sign?
Why don't
Sit
you,
down.
why don't you grab the, I mean, seriously, why don't you grab the mic and just take it over there?
Yeah.
Do what?
Does it come off?
Grab that, just
Here,
pick
you
it
got
up,
that
pick
mic.
it up,
Here, you
pick
can
it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, it's wireless.
And then go back.
All right, thank you. I think I can handle that.
How awkward do you feel?
Well, thank you, and I really did. I also want to echo everybody else the work to kind of lay it out, the 5-year forecast. I think is really helpful. So thanks, and I think moving forward to sort of align priorities with the financials is the other piece of it. Sort of what's the strategy, what's the consensus vision for the township, and what are the priorities that support that. So. Look forward to working with you guys on that. I'm a believer in predictability, incrementalism, gradualism, whatever it might be, and then making it defensible so that there's not, confusion or, taxpayers that are stirred up over a tax increase. So
Right.
I think looking at options to come off the 1 mil is a good idea. The one other thing I wanted to bring up, I went to PSAT's training. I'm going to be a future board member next year, which was really helpful. And and I'm a newbie, so I'm not making a statement here, but this idea that money that goes into a capital reserve fund, whether it's for this building or any other one, and it can't be touched, is not what I'm learning. Like, it's section 1508. And
The section 1508 of what?
the second class township code. And I actually asked the policy person with PSATs about that, and she said, well, you haven't, if the board decides you want to move that money, you can. Like, that is not etched in stone. So
I have to say, that's changed, because when I took the PSATs training, the boot camp, when I was a new supervisor, they specifically said that once it goes in there, it can't be removed.
Well,
So that's changed, and that surprises me.
Holly at PSAT said that's not the case. It said it's written so that it's sort of designated for that purpose, but if the board decides you have other priorities or want to move it, you can. So you're not legally bound to that. So I wanted to just bring that up, and maybe you guys can look into that. And then the second thing I thought was interesting.
Sorry, trying to figure out a technical.
We had Devin and I sat next to each other, and there were 40 new supervisors, trainees. And,
You just turn it off.
oh, sorry.
No, it died too.
This is not intentional, I swear.
We're showing you that needed investments are not being made in the township.
Did the charging block get pulled out?
Everybody's just dying.
Yeah, we might just start
Yeah,
shouting.
well, the only point I was going to make is,
You want to make sure.
no,
one more second. No, I didn't save it, then that again.
I don't want to say.
So we died.
Well, we can share. Come on. Come grab mine.
This one's also.
And then you hand it back here.
I'll be John Phil.
The
No, what was interesting is at this PSATs, which was all the new supervisors, for the most part, there's about 40, and the topic of tax came up, and we took an informal poll of the 40, and I would say Devin and I are probably among the very few. There were 2 from one township, so I think there's at least 30 townships there, and we both, I said, asked who's raising taxes or planning to raise taxes, and there were like 5 hands raised, including 2 from here. So the majority of people, there was no, plan to raise taxes, at least from that informal poll. So I'm just going to share that. That's it. Thanks.
Great, thanks. You can hand that one, Martha.
There you go. That's my.
So to clarify the cap or reserve fund question, the statute says the money in the fund shall be used for no other purpose unless the Board of Supervisors declares that conditions in the township make other expenses more urgent than those for which the fund was created. Under those circumstances.
But is that, that's a formal declaration that has to be?
It would, yep.
Okay.
When was that revised?
Well, not sure.
They
I'm not
don't
sure.
put that in the code?
Now they know.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
My name, right?
Yes, name and address.
So, yeah, my name is Katana Salmon and my address is 6 Heritage Lane. So the budget stuff, I am finances, having it on a graduated thing, that feels much better to me than clobbered all at once. But the other thing that interested me much more that came up was the idea of transparency. I was appalled when I got an email from a citizen to learn that there's a 60-unit development that's being talked about around the corner from where I live. And that's not the way to get that information, I don't think, And so I think having a way of putting out significant things that are happening in the township to township members so that we're informed about what's going on. I mean, I used to come to the township meetings regularly when they were in that building when we were working, against Fernley. I mean, I go back to Fernley, and so I think that having people know the issues that are coming up so that they're aware of them, so that they can become active and involved when there's something that of a concern to them is really vital. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Well, before you hand the mic down, anyone else want to
You
speak?
can put it right here on the table, and if someone wants to come up.
Can we come up and sit at the table?
I mean, honestly, if you prefer.
Conversation, can you hear me?
Would you like
Or
to
do I do it?
That-
Okay, yeah. Thanks. How are you?
Hello.
I'm Claudia Kiernan, 35 Wesley Lane. Totally am so appreciative that you took the time to look at the budget, look at some alternatives, and present them tonight. I'm curious, you mentioned that you received letters. I know I'm one of the people that wrote a letter in. How many letters did you receive from the township residents?
25, I think, is right around the 25 mark.
Okay, just curious,
Yeah.
How many people, because people that I spoke to, again, and it all comes back to this transparency thing. Residents care, but they're not always in tune with what's going on in our township. And it is, everybody's lives are busy and it's hard to stay in touch. Anyway, I do feel that what Bob said about, it's time to listen to the residents
And that we haven't, I know that there were people who went to those workshop meetings and sat there for 4+ hours, never got to talk. And when it was brought up, because we had heard through the grapevine that there might be talk of a tax increase, and then I understand, was it you that said? Yeah, I remember that from the last time. But those people are left with the understanding that there isn't going to be a tax increase. And anyway, we are not in a crisis, as Bob said. I understand all the numbers. All of us understand numbers. We're adults, we have households, we pay bills. Many of us have dependents. We totally get it. The most important thing is that we, the residents, we want to be involved. We want to be included. You gave us a presentation tonight, just educating us. I appreciate that. That's, the residents of Schuylkill Township want to be involved. And I guess there are lots of things brought up. I'm not going to touch everything. But yes, the fire company is very important to us. We want to help fund it. But I do believe, if you listen to what the residents are asking, we're asking for a pause. We're asking, pass the budget without the increase tonight. You've got residents who understand it's coming. And how do we do it? The incremental is a great way to do it. And I don't think any resident here, we voted for an open space tax. We care about our township. But there's also people here who are retiring, who are going through all sorts of things. They need time to prepare, just like what you're doing. You're preparing for what's coming down the road, and that's what we're asking. Give us some time to prepare. We're not saying no tax increase. Just bring us into the fold so that you're not getting resident pushback. That's it. But thank you for everything you were all doing. Certainly.
Just a quick count. Real quick, a little over 50, let's see here.
You said 50 emails?
Yeah.
Or
1, 2.
53. All right.
Okay.
Final count is 48 then for the microphone. 45 received and 3 extra tonight.
I got
3 more
49,
tonight,
but
I
you're
should
probably
say.
right.
Does that work now?
Yes. Come on up. It looks like our microphone's back working again.
I kind of like that though. It's a little more intimate.
I was going to say, it's very interesting, yes.
Dan Rocky, 160 Diamond Rock Road. I have a couple questions. First of all, thank you again for all the breakdowns. And I do, if you are going to vote on a tax increase, I like your staggered amounts. But whatever you vote for this time, so 0.62%, is that then in stone that the next year is going to be so the
No, it's
board
not.
will reevaluate and then see how much they want to increase it the next time until they get to 1%?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're free. We are free to change, within reason, free to change our millage rates year to year. And like I said before, there are townships that have reduced their millage rates for various circumstances. So it's
Right.
absolutely something that could happen.
Right. Yeah. Okay, because I wasn't sure if that was in stone for the next 5 years. Then
Oh,
that's,
no.
Okay, so
Just
you're
next
gonna-
year.
Okay. The general fund, the 6 million, and I think Lori mentioned that actually it's 6.2 million moving forward, but
That's just the current balance in a
Right.
sum of all of the township's general fund bank accounts. That's just where it stands as of the end of the last reconciled bank month.
right. Okay. Is that just in like a holding, like in a bank, or are we getting a percentage interest on that, or?
Yes, we have a number of different bank accounts, and over the last 2 years, the board has authorized us opening up accounts with it's an institution called Pliget
Mhm.
that is really designed for local government money, and we see a pretty high interest rate there. We also have on the treasurer's report, you can see we have an account in Univest too that gets a very high interest rate.
So that money is earning some
Yeah,
money
much
back.
of it.
It's not just
Our
sitting
interest
somewhere.
rates
and
by bank, by institution vary.
Right.
But yes.
Okay.
No, Suzanne, we don't have it in a mattress.
Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna check your house when
Yeah.
before you leave.
I have to,
We've been in charge a long
I got to
time.
piggyback on that, John. The numbers you put up, did that show the trajectory of the average that we've had with Pliget growth or no?
No, it doesn't because strictly speaking, at the end of the year, our general fund increases by our surplus. And while historically we have run a surplus, there's extenuating circumstances in this most recent year. We're probably not going to have one. And going forward, there's no reason to think we're going to magically get one again. Like the ARPA funds, the FEMA funds. It should be because that's part of our receipts. So that in terms of like that is factored into whether or not we have any surplus at the end of the year. It's just flat. Yeah. So I guess, and that's again, the projection is naive. So as those funds go down, so do our returns from those investment accounts. So then we're taking double hits on top of it then. So. Oh yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I was-
absolutely.
I was
Yeah.
wondering. Okay. Well, just for the record, I think that we should hold with the rate hike for this year because you mentioned that we don't know what's going to happen moving forward, and with some of these projects like the sidewalk, I don't know how far into that it is, but there may be some state fundings and other things that we may be getting that are like windfalls, whereas like we were talking about, if we have catastrophic snowfalls and road wipeouts.
Hurricane Bob.
Yeah, but on the Hurricane Bob. But on the other hand, we may get some money, and so like right now for the 5-year forecast, I think you should just go to next year because I think $6 million is a lot of money just to have to the side, especially if we have some things that we could use that money for now. And then readdress it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I think
No,
I
that's
done.
all that.
I was going to say to piggyback on you again is that there's 2 grant applications we have and that we should get notification on hopefully this month, but if not, hopefully in Q1 regarding the Sedgley Farm, and that could be significant. We don't know yet.
Great. Yeah, that's why I'm more optimistic that, we're going to get some help instead of, we're going to have to pay. So I just would rather we wait and hold on till the next budget.
Your side too.
Is your microphone?
Oh wow. Thank you very much. And anyone else like to respond?
So, Suzanne, just to let you know that the grant funding that we apply for, it's always competitive. It's never guaranteed. And we're pretty successful with our grant applications, but it's not 100%. And I would say, Lori, you think we're about 75% with the grants that we apply for to the ones that we don't get?
Oh, to what we apply for, to what we get?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
Success rate, 75%?
yeah, but it's really hard to
Yeah.
say because it depends on
And it depends on how far back you go, too.
Recently, we haven't been very successful, but that's because of the state of grant funding.
Okay. You never know, but they are competitive and they are not guaranteed.
Peter Levin, 225 Valley Park Road, and I'm the chairman of the Historic Commission. And my question for you is, given that this is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and we've discussed it and put forth, what the proper terminology is, but is there going to be any money in the budget for a celebration for the 250th? I didn't see it anywhere in the. Historic Commission. Peter, 11.
I have no
Mine.
Do you have a lower budget?
I have this one. What's this one?
Something's wrong in the,
Yes, there is.
There is.
I
It's a short answer.
figured.
Okay, do we have any idea how much?
Off the top of my head,
Yes,
no.
I mean, it's what the Historic Commission submitted for their 2026 budget request, and that was included, hold on, I'm gonna need a minute to.
3,000 for signs
Six total.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, 3,000 for signs and that is.
Do you have something in events?
Oh, I'm really.
We have the general event line item, yes.
And we have a general event line item.
Correct. I think it was reduced this year.
Yeah, we reduced it to 6,000, and that includes planning for America 250. That is $1,000 that the Historical Commission requested for banners, and 5,000 that the Historical Commission requested for America 250 park signs. That's what was submitted for the 2026 budget.
Questions? I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, I'll go. Carolyn DeBundo, 10 Lockview Lane. Is this on? All right. Okay. All right. Okay, I can talk loud, trust me.
It's working. Just speak right in.
Okay.
Come right
Okay. All right. I have to go back. So I have questions for Lori. Again, I am a numbers person. I know I keep asking my questions of you. So I think I'm still struggling with trying to understand. So in 2023, we had about 3.6 million, according to the budgets online, left in our general fund. Now, the money that you received from the ARPA was received prior, so that was included in that 3.6 million, correct? Because it was in like 2021, so it would have been included in that.
I would have to go back and double check that
Yeah.
offhand.
It was approximately 2021, I
in-
was told.
They came in we got two installments of that money. One happened before I was here.
Okay.
I'd have to go back
Okay.
and look. And at one point it was housed in the general fund, and then at one point it had to be moved into a separate fund. So there
Okay.
was a time when it was being reported in the treasurer's report as part of the overall general fund, and then it was called out. So
Okay.
I'd have to
So
look into
most
it.
likely,
And
if
it was pulled out because we were told we had to account for it separately.
Okay, so my point is that if there was 3.6 million in 2023, right? So that's a healthy amount. And now we're at about 6 million just in the last 2 years. Can you give us an idea of what you attribute that big increase in the surplus to? Because I think it would be helpful to understand as a resident. I don't think anybody would disagree that if our fire and police and EMS need funds, everybody's here to support them. And I would be more than happy to, if it was absolutely needed, to have a tax increase for that. What I'm struggling with is understanding is why, if we may not be budgeted to have a surplus this year, but were we budgeted to have a surplus the last few years? My guess would be no. So where did that money come from? Was it just a surplus? Was it something else? Because knowing where that excess of over $3 million in funds came from for the last 2 years, that's a lot in a short period of time. So that's what I think I'm struggling with understanding, is where that money came from. That's my first part of the question. My second part of the question is, am I correct in what John said earlier, was that in the past, we were allotting $200,000 a year for the fire department, and then that was stopped because there were issues. Is that correct?
For capital.
For capital, yes. 200,000 a year was put aside. So then that was stopped. So for how many years now? 5? For 4 years. So okay. So for 4 years, $200,000 was not allocated toward them. That money was then put into the general fund? Is that where it was put?
It stayed in the general fund.
Okay.
So it was not, it wasn't,
Yeah.
it didn't come out of the general fund. It was not included in the budget.
Okay, so basically, we had $800,000 that we would have been budgeting toward that was in the general fund. Was partly of the accumulation, I would assume, because now you don't have to
But
give that to the fund.
we also knew that eventually we were going to be getting what we wanted from the fire company.
Yes.
And we knew that we would be giving that money to them. So it stayed in the general fund to be able to give to them eventually.
That is my point. So that's part of that general fund.
And we knew that this day was going to come, that we were going to have to give this money to them. So that shouldn't have been a surprise to everyone, right? So we have to give them for capital right now about 400,000 for capital. Is that correct? Currently, they're requesting 400. And Lori said a few weeks ago at the last meeting that we could move money from that general fund to the capital fund for expenses just like this, which was what we had expected to do, knowing we didn't have the money. So having to give them this money, we actually should have 800,000 ready to give to them for the capital fund right now. That shouldn't cause a tax increase because we knew it was happening over the last 4 years. So that's what I think I'm struggling with. Yeah. Agreed, but we haven't had a problem. So we don't know if we have a problem in the future yet because we've been running a surplus for the last 2 years. Do we know why? Do we know where that money's coming from?
In 2023, we had a very good EIT year, and we also had very high real estate transfer tax. And that
Okay.
is not something that has slowed.
Okay.
Crazy interest return that year too.
We also made changes to our interest accounts in the last couple of years, so we started realizing a lot more interest in our general fund.
Okay, and 2024?
And it has not snowed.
And 2024, do you know what happened
2024,
then?
we also exceeded our EIT, and we also nearly doubled our real estate transfer tax. That's
Okay.
not something I can predict, though.
Exactly. So we can't predict what's going to happen. So is there a chance that that could happen again? It happened last 2 years. Is there a chance?
I mean, I wish it would, and I wish I had a crystal ball to know that, but unfortunately, I don't, and I can only go off of the numbers that I
But
have
is there a
available.
chance that that could happen based on the fact that it happened 2 years? I'm not saying to budget for it, but I'm saying,
Could
is there
happen.
a chance it could happen? We don't know. We don't know if we're going to get snow. We don't know if Hurricane Bob's going to come. We don't know what's going to happen. But we do know historically for the last 2 years that we run a surplus. We also know that we put money aside for the last 4 years knowing that this day was going to come. So I think that's what I'm struggling with. If we need the money, I don't think anybody's going to argue with doing something if we need the money. And if we need the money down the line and we're here a year from now and we say, okay, we gave the fire company the money that we allotted for them. We had $800,000, which I don't think that whole 800 is going to them currently, right? I think you had 400 in your budget. Yeah, so I think it's, so I had 400 going to the capital.
Because that's actually what he proposed.
So
Okay.
yeah, so the 0.62 proposal was that we were paying tax increase for just the operations, and then the capital funding would come out of a general fund transfer.
Yeah, and that was
yeah.
400,000 of the 800.
That was. I mean, we still have to talk about it, but
Yeah, yeah.
we could hit
Okay.
we could hit their 200 and then do another 200 on top and start
Yeah.
chipping with the 900. Yeah.
Yeah, but we knew this day was going to come.
But we also,
for Martha's
but
work.
we also have been discussing taking that money that wasn't allocated to them and approving a transfer, an end of year transfer, just as you suggest.
Yeah,
The
so
800,000.
The 800,000.
Yes, we've been talking about
so
that too.
But my point is, this wasn't a surprise. This is something that was planned for years. We knew it was probably going to happen. Towards what Martha said, right?
I mean, I think
know when it was going to happen because we didn't know when the fire company was going to have their act together well enough to give us what they needed.
Okay.
Yes,
but we
I'm
were
sorry.
hopeful.
I still have to get that dig in there.
But we were hopeful that it was because we had confidence in them, and we were hopeful it was going to happen.
I had hoped that it would have happened 7 years ago, and we would have this conversation 7 years ago. But it didn't happen 7 years ago. It happened to happen. It happened to happen this year.
So a tremendous amount of work that you guys did to really step it up. But to add to what you're saying is, the only real additional expense that we didn't know would be coming is for the EMS, which is something we opted to support.
And absolutely, I think if we were saying today, this is something we didn't have in the past to support, if this is something that we can't afford to put in the budget, and it's an EMX of, I believe it was 0.18% of it, then I don't think anybody would be in this room fighting it. But I think the point is, number one, it's still, the numbers still aren't adding up. Number two, the public not knowing, and I had said the last time I was here, there was a remark made at the first meeting to make it sound like nobody's talking about a tax increase, which obviously the board was already considering, or there was some discussion. Then it was brought up again, and it wasn't transparent. And I know it's hard, and I appreciate the pivot here. I appreciate backing off of the 1 and looking at the 62. I realized that was, listening to the public. And I know it's hard once you go down a road to pivot, especially when you're a group of people and you now have to face all these people. And I appreciate the presentation and trying to make us understand. I think most of us, to Claudia's point, we do understand how a budget, and you have to have, more coming in than going out. We get that. But I think that another thing is to consider even a further pivot and just say, do we have to do this now? Or is this something that we really should see where we are in a year? Because even based on that 5-year plan, that didn't say that the next year is crucial. That will give you time to take a step back, to truly evaluate what's necessary, to listen to the public, and maybe you'll get the public more involved in some of the meetings because now they're paying a little bit of attention. So that would be my request, to take a breath, take a step back, and really truly pivot and listen to the public. Don't go down this road just because you said you were going to. We all do that sometimes, and then we realize, well, maybe we should have taken a moment. So that would be my request, just to take a moment to listen, because people obviously really care. You got almost 50 letters. You have this room is always empty. People are here for a reason. They sense that something doesn't make them uncomfortable. It's not just that they don't want to help support our fire or our police or EMS. That's not what it's about. They don't feel comfortable that things just aren't adding up or making sense, and that it came on really quickly and it wasn't clear. But thank you all for your service. I appreciate it.
Great. Appreciate it. Anyone? No? Name and address, stranger.
Hello. Mark Donovan, 26 Flintlock Lane. I like that idea of moving to the 0.62 mil from the 1. I think it's a good compromise between the public confusion and the need for an increase in taxes. With the fire department's increased requests for funding and the flat lines on real estate taxes and EIT over the past few years, we're not keeping up with inflation. There's issues when you're talking about cutting services and programs, like talking about not getting to the I think it's 3 or 4 miles of road that we should be getting to. Instead, we're getting to about 2 every year. That's been going on since I was on the board, and since I started on the board 7 years ago. And we never actually got to catch up on those roads because we're always playing catch up. It's not just necessarily keeping up with the current services that the township is providing. There's the thought that the township should be providing the basic expected level of service, not just like a bare minimum that's barely keeping up with like the cracks and the potholes in the roads. And I work for a municipality. We always are talking about the next tax increase because of the fact that real estate doesn't get assessed in any county here. I mean, I said in the last time I spoke, Bucks has it much worse. They haven't updated since like 1955 or something. And they're capping out at 30 mils and they can't go any higher. And so they're all struggling to fund. At least we're in the 90s. But when I see like, I had a couple of statistics very quickly. You statisticed it almost to death, but I'll help you out a little bit more. Let's see. I'm seeing about a 29 to 30% inflation since about 2020. I saw about 11% increase in the EIT and about I think a 3% increase in the real estate taxes that have been brought in by the township. And your staff does a fantastic job of doing more with less. I'd like to see what they do with a little bit more, because that you have a potential park that you're talking about by the reservoir. You have or what have you. You have your trails to keep up over on Valley Park. It would be nice to see maybe something happen back in this someday, this little open space parcel someday, whether that's a buyback or something, things we talked about over the years. But like you got a municipal building that's falling apart around you a little bit, and it needs upgrades. At some point it does need to happen. I think again this compromise of 0.62 as opposed to a full mil, it reduces the shock, but it adds a needed revenue source and gives you time to consider exactly how much you need. Because I suspect you need probably more like 1.5 mils. Having done my own analysis of this, I do this I also do this for my job. But but even at the 1 mil, I think long term, like think in the 5 to 10 year, you're talking about maybe 1.5 mils every 5 to 7 years. And like we said before, we only raised it 0.3 mils in 2019. So I think we're falling behind. We didn't have professional staff before. We may have been, the 2.7 mils at the time may have been a little high, but I think that's catching up with us finally. We're finally into that rotation of every few years you're going to have to look at a tax increase. And I think with the increased communication next year and getting that stuff out to residents in advance, I think you'll have a better job communicating that that need is going to be regular and not just a one-time every 20 years. So kudos. And I would recommend to anyone who has not looked at our website, the SchuylkillTWP.org, please make sure you're following that, because I'm sure that the budget's been posted there for about 4 months, 5 months now, and there's been communications there. That's where I got the information. That's how I've been keeping up. I haven't been able to make these meetings every month because I do have a job that requires night meetings. But I'm glad I got to come here and listen, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else? Excellent. Like I said before, we're not actually voting at the moment on this. We have some other things we need to move on to before we get to that point. I do apologize. I really need to run to the bathroom, though. If we can take a 90-second break. I've been chugging water because I got dry mouth. I do not.
And this is the last microphone that works, I think. I don't know. Didn't Rick Rotendo find it?
What was the dog's name?
No?
It's like 5 days. I was beginning to think it got stolen.
Got eaten by a coyote or something?
No, I was like, this is so weird. They can't find this dog anywhere in Collegeville. And cousins. Like, get it out there. Somebody left a
Yeah, I got my mic up here. All right, great. Moving on. Next up is a discussion on the fund balance policy. So Lori, I'll kick this over to you to get started on the basics of that.
Yeah, so the fund balance policy, and we've talked about it a couple times now at this point and alluded to it during the budget discussion, but what's being proposed is a new policy for the township, and this is to establish the minimum amount of excess unallocated general funds that are available. Like I mentioned, the township works with PFM. They're a municipal financial advisor, and they're the ones who helped us through our bond rating process when we went through the acquisition of Sedgley Farms back in 2024. So they helped me to develop this general fund reserve balance policy. It's very similar to what other municipalities use. We all tend to repeat the same language because why recreate the wheel? We're recommending a minimum fund balance in the general fund of 40% of the next year's operating budget. So whatever we plan for expenditures in the next calendar year, 40% would be the minimum that we should leave as completely unallocated, so that if our revenues don't come in, well, our revenues never come in until April. So that covers us so that we have money in our bank accounts to make payroll, to pay our regular expenditures. And the reason that 40% is targeted is, again, because that was a recommendation that came from PFM, because we do have a AA+ bond rating. Now, it's not the only reason to do it, but that was a target.
And just to ask a clarifying question, this policy sets, is it a floor or a ceiling or a target?
That is a minimum.
Minimum. So nothing obligates us to spend if we are above 40%, spend or allocate or earmark anything above 40?
No, what the policy says is that if we find ourselves in a position where we're not able to meet or maintain that 40%, then we have to take remedial action. So I or whoever is the township manager treasurer at the time that happens would have to work with the board to come up with a strategy to recover that amount.
Okay. Apologies. Who did you say recommended the 40%? I feel like that got referenced earlier tonight.
That came from Jamie at PFM.
PFM, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that is GFOA. They've rethought some of their strategy, and they've put out new information. And there's always a different opinion on how much you're comfortable with, and it really does come back to the comfortability of the board. And the 40% is a good conservative amount that our financial advisor had recommended.
Great. Going back to the GFO guidance, since that keeps getting cited too, I have the quote up in front of me, and I'll make sure it's stated accurately since it keeps getting misquoted. What they say is a fund balance in their general fund of no less than 2 months. So again, that's a floor, not a target. They also clarify immediately afterwards that governments may opt. Oh, thank you. Significantly in excess of this recommended minimum level. One of those things it specifically calls out as well is the increased cost of borrowed funds. So having that reserve policy, that 2 months that keeps getting cited, that is the absolute minimum. And again, the reason that minimum is there is because we don't realize our receipts until several months into that first year. So if we have nothing and our year starts, we're screwed. Forgive my French. Should have known better than to say that. So that is where the 40. So between having a 2 month floor, a 15% floor, and a 40% recommendation for PFM, I am generally comfortable with that. That said, this can and should be revisited when we do a long-term strategy session, planning session next year. I know I have that earmarked as one of my workshops that I want to make sure gets on us so we can start talking through that. Litany of things to discuss. Reserve policy is one of them. 40% seems like a sane starting point. It doesn't disrupt anything in the 2026 budget, and at least gives us a starting point to work off of going forward. So, all that said, anyone else on the board? We'll pass the talking stick. Oh, it was off.
That one was operator error. Oh, was that one? Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, you said he
So-
could hear it. Yeah. I
Thank you. Okay. It's a good thing I don't work with technology for a living or anything like that. That'd be really embarrassing. Great. So all that said, anyone else?
Like I said, I've been thinking about taxes and general fund balances more than I've ever in my entire life. And I just read an article earlier today about how do we rethink reserves, and what the 40% is consistent with thinking, and also for those townships that have bonds, it's I think it's a good number. And it can be rethought at a later date. Leave it on? Okay. We're not worried about the battery?
Okay, perfect. Great. Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, unless there's anyone else on the. Tell them they're good. All right. Public comment. Anyone want to come up and say anything about the fund balance policy? Great. Wow, that was surprisingly easy. And again, this will get voted on during the resolution section. So right now we have a resolution written for 40%. We'll vote on that towards the end of the meeting. So with that, we're gonna move into. Give Paul finally a chance to speak over there. So we'll make a motion to consider the release of infilling EDU for 41 South Forge Manor Drive. Do I hear a second? Second. Great. And with that, I will kick it over to Paul.
Perfect. Yes, this is a, excuse me, the applicant or the property owner has requested an EDU be released for their property situated at 41 South Forge Manor Drive. They have an existing sewer system that is failing. There is an infrastructure in front of their house that they can tie into. They have coordinated with Valley Forge Sewer Authority, and they have come in front of the Planning Commission just this past month and got a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for approval of a release for their EDU.
Perfect. And just to clarify, the VFSA is also fine with it.
Yeah, well, yes, they have to pay all the tapping fees, et cetera, but they started the conversation with the VFSA, and then they directed them to the township to get the EDU released, and then they'll go back and get them pay the appropriate fees to connect.
Okay, great. I have no issue with that. Anyone else on the board? Great. All in favor? Aye. All right. I will. So number 3 is a motion to approve the employment contract for Township Manager Lori Getz. We're actually going to table this for the time being. We have some further discussion we want to have around the contract itself. So we're at the very end of the meeting. We're going to cut into executive session and discuss that further, and then come back and vote on that after the executive session. So stick around if you want to see the results of that. So that I will table the employment contract motion. Moving on, I'll make a motion to approve memorandum of understanding terms of employment for Lieutenant Bryant McCarthy for a term of January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026. Lori, anything you'd like to add on this?
I'll second.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, go ahead. You can second it. I'll give it to you.
Second.
Okay. All right. This was one of the things we discussed in executive session earlier today. So with that, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you're stuck here. Great. So I will open this up now for a discussion and review of proposed dates for Board of Supervisors regular workshop meetings and all commission meetings, as in the 2026 meeting calendar.
So the calendar was.
I'm not going to be a part of this discussion because I'm not going to be a part of this next year. So I will just let you guys.
You can still.
You don't want to just try to mess up the dates for everybody?
So should I not vote on this because I'm not going to be here?
No, it doesn't matter.
Still vote on it.
And you're not voting on it actually. This is just a discussion.
Oh, okay.
It'll be voted on at the reorg meeting.
sorry.
The calendar was put into your workspaces. There were no major changes for 2026. So this was just if the board wanted to see any changes, if there were any major conflicts and any issues.
But I thought I was clear that I was inviting you to armchair quarterback me in, payback. So I'm expecting you to come and heckle us at these meetings.
Great. I have no conflicts on my end. Bob, Randy, you guys good with the proposed calendar? Great. Andy, you don't have to reply. If you don't reply, I take that as assent.
There were
You
only
may have time.
There were no changes to the board meetings themselves. None of them conflicted with any holidays. We did have to change, we moved one zoning hearing board meeting, and we moved one historic commission meeting.
Okay.
Two historic commission meetings.
Okay.
Are they aware of that?
Yes.
All right. Well, like Lori said, we will adopt that during our reorg session on January 5th. So with that, we'll move on from discussion.
And meetings are still on, sorry, meetings are still on Monday to accommodate Mike. Okay. I do think, I want to note, having the meetings on Monday it just puts so much pressure on our township staff to work. I mean, they work over the weekend to prepare for these meetings. So I just want to say that we recognize that. No, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, Mike, but I was thinking, I was thinking about that, about how you're working all weekend to get ready for these meetings. So it's noted. Okay.
Awesome. All right, moving on. I will make a motion to advertise the 2026 Board of Supervisors annual reorganization meeting for January 5th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Do I hear a second?
Second.
That's what you're striving for. All in favor? Aye. Great. And a motion to advertise the 2026 Board of Auditors annual reorganization meeting for January 6th, 2026 at 4 p.m. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. I will make a motion to approve the 2025 library contribution in the amount of $9,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll clarify. This is also a budgeted item. That $9,000 is also what they request each year. So we're meeting the request, and again, it's budgeted. So expected expense. All in favor? Aye. I'll make a motion to approve McDonald Uniform Company Incorporated quote in the amount of $6,990.15 for police vests. Again, this is a budget. Oh, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you.
We have to make sure we get that 15 cents in there.
This again, a budgeted item. Laura, anything you want to add to this? It's stock standard.
Chief, do you have anything? And we are applying for. Oh.
I have a microphone.
We're expecting to get a 50% grant, so it'll actually be half of that amount, but the amount probably won't come until January for budgetary purposes.
Great, thank you. 15 cents. Oh, it's 7 cents. Yes, yes. Great. All in favor? Aye. Next up is a discussion on the 2026 draft fee schedule. Lori, would you like to talk us through this a little bit, because I know there's some changes here.
So the major changes here, we've been having some discussions about making sure that our fees are in line with those of other townships, and ours. We had fallen behind specifically when it comes to fees for subdivisions and land developments. And we found some inconsistencies where, residents were maybe under a false assumption of how much a project was going to cost, because our escrow fee for a pool or a minor project was maybe $1,000 or $2,000. And that is really not enough to cover the costs. So what we were finding is that residents were coming in and they're paying their fees and they're applying for these permits. And because our fees were artificially low, everybody signs an agreement that they reimburse the township for the fees for what it costs for engineering and legal review when it comes to these projects. And we took a look at it, and the evaluation showed that, okay, well, I think maybe people are not really fully understanding when they're going into a project, looking at our fee schedule of how much it's actually going to cost. So we upped the fees to make sure that people have a little bit more of a realistic expectation going into it on how much they're going to spend for engineering. So the way that we handle that is when an escrow is higher, if the money's not all spent, it gets returned to them. But correct. But this way they have a better ability to budget for what they're going to spend for their total project, because it is the obligation of the applicant to cover the engineering and the legal fees. And what the township does is on a monthly basis, the township pays for the engineering fees. So we pay T&M, we pay Sienna Law, we pay the traffic engineer, we pay whoever is working on the project, and then we send those bills to the residents for reimbursement. So what we're trying to do here is just get a little bit more in line so that, yes, they pay a bit more up front, but then they actually have a better idea of what it's going to cost. So that's what we did. Kim worked really hard on this. She compared us to all of the other surrounding townships, and she made the recommendations on what areas that she sees, because she's the one who does this on a daily basis and talks to all the people who are applying for their permits.
And I'm sure she did this because she was getting her head chewed off.
Yeah, some of that, and some of that, truthfully, was because we were without an accountant for a long time for different reasons here for a while. So some of our pass-through billing, that we call it, was behind. So some residents were seeing, larger amounts all at once that were due because the billing wasn't coming out on a monthly basis from us due to staffing constraints. So that was another reason when we took a look at it, we're like, okay, you know what, that was one problem, and that was an isolated incident that won't happen going forward, assuming that we don't have, hopefully, staffing issues like we have in the past. But the other issue was, okay, well, if a project actually costs $5,000 to get done, we shouldn't be saying that it costs $1,000 and then just sending you the bill for the rest. So this will help for a person to have a better ability to budget up front for what they are realistically going to spend putting an in-ground pool in, as an example. So again, no vote on this tonight. Just wanted to discuss it. You have time to look at it between now and reorg. It will get voted on at reorg.
I looked at it. I looked at it over the weekend, but the battery died in my tablet, so that's why I have it closed. We're losing batteries left and right here tonight. Oh, I'll hold on to it. Oh, do you need it, John? Sorry.
I have no further comments on the fee schedule. I know we've talked about that problem in the past, so I'm totally on board with increasing things to an appropriate level. Any other questions or comments from the board on the fee schedule?
And if any questions come up between now and reorg,
Yeah.
or any additional information, any other further revisions that anybody wants to see, we can work on that.
Alrighty, moving on. I'll make a motion to approve Hugh Associates agreement to collect residential and commercial recycling data and prepare PA DEP 904 recycling grant application. Do I hear a second?
Second. Oh, you go ahead. Second.
So Huff Associates files our 904 grant for us each year, so they, what, Hugh?
I think I said Hugh instead
That's
of
okay.
Huff. Yeah.
Close enough. So they file all the paperwork that's required for us to get money back from the state for our recycling program. We have talked a bit about that. The money has gone down every year. The state is actually quite behind in sending those payments out. We are always, I know. We're always about a year behind, so we'll start, in fact, I just got the email yesterday, over the weekend or Friday from Huff. They're starting to work on our last year's reporting. So we're always about a year behind. Now we're just exceptionally behind. Through no fault of our own, we still do all of our reporting on time, and they do a great job for us. So the way that this agreement is structured, it is now a 3-year agreement. So they'll file it. This is for 25, 26, and 27 calendar years. And the fee that we pay is an amount not to exceed $3,500, 25% of whatever we're awarded, but not to exceed $3,500 a year. And we typically see about $12,000 that we get from that, although they just emailed me and we're looking at the projection for our last year is about $8,000. So they were actually asking me if we think that we have any new haulers in the township that we're not aware of, that they're not aware of, that they should be seeking data from. I'm not, but evidently Blazinski's numbers are lower than expected. So we're going to be looking into that to see if there are any that we can track down. So if anybody's using any new recycling hauler that you want to tell me about, let me know, but we can try to find some more of that money.
Well, Lori, we're recycling clothing. Oh, we're not, We never were before. That never went into recycling. Never mind.
No. I wonder if we could use that though, actually. No? Oh, okay, bummer. Patty. Okay. So, yeah, so that's all I have on that.
So do you think maybe you could put something out in email or on Facebook saying, here's a list of recyclers that we're aware of? If residents are using somebody else, could you let us know? Because we need to get money from them.
I'm sorry.
Here,
I just want to apologize. There's a version control with the meeting, with one of the files. And if you see me and John being distracted, it's because there's a version control issue. And it may be something going on with my computer. But, okay. Yeah. We're not like, that's what we're discussing here.
no.
Yeah, it's the meeting dates. For some reason, it's not showing me all the meeting dates, and it's formatting, and like it looks as though somebody who was in that document changed it, and it got corrupted. So we have to refer back to a prior version. We have to refer back to a prior version, and for some reason, I can't pull up the prior version. Sorry about that. It actually happened as I was looking at it. Something happened to it. Okay. Thank you.
Press the reload button. That doesn't force reload. Not yet. It might take a second to populate. Still says 9 minutes ago when last updated. Anyway, back on topic. Anyone have any questions on Huff Associates and the recycling? Okay, recycling grant. Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up is a discussion on a request to waive penalty fee for real estate taxes for 53 Rossiter Avenue. Lori, I'll kick you back over to you to do a quick summary of that situation.
Yes, so the property owner at 53 Rossiter reached out to the elected tax collector because she received a penalty notice in the mail. Come to find out, in talking with the tax collector, she was using the tax collector's online payment software, and she mistyped her bank account information in. She didn't realize that she had done that and that the tax had not been paid until she received the penalty notice in the mail from the tax collector. So she is requesting that that late fee be waived. The tax collector doesn't have the authority to do that, neither do I as the township manager, so he referred her to us, she wrote to us, and it's on the agenda for consideration.
If I could just comment on this, just about every year that I've been on the board, someone has come to us and said, I screwed up, can you guys waive this fee for me? And we have always said that we didn't want to set a precedence by saying yes to one person and then no to another and then yes to somebody else, that we have just said no to everyone down the board. But discuss.
I mean, I'm generally in favor of that as well. It's too easy to abuse, in all honesty, and it sucks, but it's the cost of running a township. You can't make exceptions for people like that. So I'm in favor of not waiving the fee, or not in favor of waiving the fee. Proper English.
It sounds unsympathetic, but I think that it would open us up to evaluating on a case-by-case basis everybody who has not been able to make the payment for various and probably very reasonable reasons, and it's not a path that we should go down.
Can we pass some sort of a resolution stating that we won't do this? Or do we have to look at this from a case-by-case basis?
It's already sort of, it's already sort of cooked in that this is the requirement, this is the penalty. I don't think you need to say, and we're not gonna waive it. So I think no.
Okay. So we would just continue to do this if
Just-
somebody asks.
And you can I think we can let them know at staff level, if they're making that request, this is not a request that we've ever seen approved.
Yeah, and we do that. And we did also advise this resident, on the advice of the tax collector as well. We did let her know, like, you should pay it, because the next step would be a lien from the tax collector. And he even said that too, like, don't wait to see what happens with the board. So we did advise her of that as well. Yeah. So do you want to, I guess we don't really,
So you
yeah,
really don't.
you don't really need to.
There's been no motion yet, right? So
No.
You don't need a motion, it's just not taking action, so you take no action.
Okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
It sucks. It does. Alrighty, moving on to resolutions and ordinances. So I'm going to make a motion for the approval of resolution 2025-26, adopting the 2026 Schuylkill Township budget, with a 0.62 millage tax levy for fire, a dedicated tax levy for fire and EMS. Do I hear a second? Any further discussion on this?
Let me, I
Yeah.
might need some clarification. Okay, so 0.62, hold on, bear with me here.
No problem.
That's the total.
That is the total. It's 0.47, 0.15 is the split.
So 0.47 fire.
And 0.15
0.15 EMS.
Yes.
And that is
it
just
would-
for operations.
That yes,
that-
that is to fund just operations. Let me double check that number before it gets fully written down, but that's what I have in my head from when I was playing with the numbers. It'll take me 2 seconds of doing Excel.
Okay. And then.
Correct, we don't need to advertise.
And I then only need. I still need both the fire fund and EMS.
So I forgot to calculate it. It's technically 6205, 2826.
So
would be the total, the limit when we get the individual.
0.6205.
Yeah, because I truncated it because the spreadsheet was meant to be for discussion purposes, not to be at that level.
yeah, we're gonna want to round that to
Yeah. I've seen up to 4 digits for millage rates across other places.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the two. So the split works out to 4724 and 1481. 1481. Or roughly 0.47 and 0.15 for a 6.2 total. 16202. Yes, yeah, that'd be about right. Let me.
4724 and 1481.
Yeah, let me just change the decimal on this.
Oh, there we go. Yep, that's right. 6205.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna say that last number is 5.
Yeah, 5.
Hold on, I can just pull it up right here. 6205. Yes. I was trying to do that mentally, but I'm working with 7 digits instead of 4. I'm also running off of a 15-hour workday.
Never been better than at math than someone.
Oh.
We have to update the, we need to update the resolution, so that's what we're.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing else is changing except for the change that I already made of the real estate.
Right, the real estate valuation.
Yep, that was lowered. I've changed nothing else, so I will edit. For the final version, I will amend the fire tax fund and the EMS tax fund to reflect the rates that you just gave me.
Are we good to vote? Good to vote. Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right. Motion for approval of resolution 2025-27 annual tax levy for 2026. Again, this is just the fire and EMS tax itself as in its own resolution. So the same 0.62 we were just talking about. Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Andrew, we didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Aye.
Thank you. Motion for approval of resolution 2025-28 establishing 2026 holiday dates. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is an approval for resolution 2025-29 transfer of funds. And we will discuss this. Okay. So Lori, if you want to kick us off on this.
Yes, so this is a resolution that we do on an annual basis where the board decides where it may want to allocate any budgetary surplus funds. Now, I've explained that this year it doesn't look like we're going to have much of a budgetary surplus. Hopefully we will, but as it stands right now, we are at, after I remove that carryover that we adopted the budget with, about $500,000, and we do have some year-end expenses that will still be paid after tonight's disbursements, payroll expenses, et cetera. So with that in mind, and given the discussion earlier tonight amongst the board about potentially funding capital expenditures or contributing to the capital fund for the fire department, that is a discussion that we should have. So in the past, and in 2024 for 2025, the board authorized the transfer of an amount not to exceed, not to exceed up to $500,000 to capital roads and not to exceed $750,000 to municipal complex fund. So in the past, we've always prioritized the capital roads fund at the end of the year for any unallocated budgetary surplus. And the same with the municipal complex fund. Last year it was a bit more. That is not the amount that we traditionally transferred. And then when we get closer to the end of the year, so the next couple of weeks, I will watch the budget and see where we are, and then I will make transfers in amounts in accordance with whatever amounts the board puts in this ordinance of the not to exceed, based on where we end the year.
So I have a question. So right now, we think, right now we have 500.
Yes.
But we have 3 more weeks in December to pay for. And so it's most likely we're going to have very little, right? So, say,
That's my assumption, although we will still see some earned income taxes coming in.
okay. Do you have any
So-
projection on earned income tax or?
It's not gonna be a whole lot at this point at the end of the year. We usually get those.
Okay.
We don't usually see huge amounts at this time of year, but it depends sometimes on how certain employers are paying them. Some of them pay them in kind of even amounts throughout the year, and some do it all in one, like,
Okay.
yeah.
But so
Hard to
say, so the way our resolution is worded, we have not to exceed amounts for various capital funds that we put it in,
Yep.
but we're not going to have anywhere near that amount. Like, so you do it that way versus a percentage, like 30% of what's left in the balance, 30%. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just
Okay.
in the past that is how this township has done it on an annual basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we discussed, and I'm almost wondering, well, I guess it's not, I guess it's fine the order that we have it in. We have the fund balance policy. We're voting on that next. We've had this de facto sort of at a 100% policy. Is there any reason why we should flip these two items or to vote on the fund policy first? Or
I don't think it necessarily matters in terms of 2026.
Okay.
We're not going to transfer enough. Well, maybe we get to that point where someone's advocating for a transfer that takes us at or below that. 40%.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's going to propose that.
so the general fund allocation that you were proposing for the shortfall for the fire department, that is going to be accomplished in which of these resolutions? That's going to be accomplished in 2025, 29? 2020, 2025, 29?
Yeah, 29.
Oh,
Right. That would come
Oh,
next year, so it's in next year's budget.
that's why I'm trying to clarify how it's being effectuated, the transfer to the fire department.
I mean, they could really do it either way.
I thought we could still
I
do
would
that.
put it in this way. I would do it as a separate I would do it as a separate motion to come out of the 2026 budget, because that's where we budgeted it, so it would come from those funds. If we did it now, it would come from our 2025 funds.
Right.
Unless, Danielle, your thought is for the unallocated additional money that we might have at the end of this year, that a percentage of that or a portion of that is attributed to the fire company.
Yeah, and
Instead of just capital road fund and municipal complex fund.
The problem is we're not going to have nearly that enough
No.
to make that up.
No.
That's why I was wondering, since we are going to be voting on the fund balance policy, could you then, once that fund balance policy is voted on, could you then take what we've been discussing, that 800,000 from the operating fund for 2025, and sorry, I apologize, from the capital fund, or do you? I'm looking for ideas. I think we all know what we were trying to do. What's the
Yeah.
best way to effectuate it? What's the best way to
And
do
we
it?
we have not budgeted for those funds to be moved. Like, we have not budgeted for that capital amount in the 2026
In
budget.
2025.
Or in
Or
2026.
Or 2026.
Even if we don't budget for it, we can still.
By resolution,
You can
they
do it
want
by resolution.
They want it, yeah.
But we need a resolution to do that.
Oh, we
Right.
can just include it in, is this one geared specifically towards surplus funds?
This one is
Okay.
current, unbudgeted transfer of surplus funds. Right?
Yep, that's right.
I think we would need a separate resolution in order to do that.
I think so too.
Now,
Since you're already
you don't,
advertising for me, you may as well advertise for this too.
what do you mean?
I would like
What
to
do you
invite
mean?
Mark up to speak on this as our other resident township expert.
What do you mean advertising?
Yeah, don't we have to advertise if we're changing the?
I would just suggest that that
No.
that
No.
yeah that money
Oh,
that
you
you're
mean
talking about with the money for the fire department that makeup cost, that's baked into their assumption for the money that they requested annually, and that would be moving forward. You'd contribute a higher amount moving forward annually. That's kind of what they baked into their assumption. So you wouldn't be doing a lump sum all at once, $800,000. It's going to be baked into that $400,000 and the $200,000 or whatever, however
well,
much
that's
it
true,
was.
yeah.
It's baked into the operating and capital request
that
that
400
they
request.
gave to you guys. So
It's kind of right.
It was a full mill, not at the 60.
Hi. So we would greatly appreciate getting the monies that were previously withheld. That would put us in a better financial position to purchase the first truck and not be flat broke when we go to buy the second truck. And I think that's all of our goals. So in order to do that, if you wanted to transfer excess funds from your general fund now and earmark it in the capital fire account, that would be the best way to do it, in my opinion.
We do, yeah.
Right. And can we, is that?
We can add a resolution, but we still have to advertise that we changed the agenda. to add that
We just have to
resolution.
repost, we would just have to
repost it on
repost
the
it.
township website.
We don't actually have to advertise
Yeah,
it.
not on the paper.
Is there any reason we have to do, we can't make fund transfers in the first 3 quarters, or the first
Right,
quarter
that's-
of the year,
Yeah,
but
But you can do it now.
that was why it was, that was
We
the
don't-
idea, do it now.
We could, if we
And
did
that's
that,
why I
we
thought we were doing this in December.
well, we didn't, this was not planned in the budget.
We don't have a resolution for that. It would have to be written.
The fund balance, the fund transfer resolution that was on the agenda is just the one that we do every year that had nothing to do with, yeah, there was nothing.
So we would have to have a number 6 here for resolution 2025-31 in order to do the 900 for the fire company, correct?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
So is that,
Right now.
That we have to write right now, correct.
Right now, we're working on 2025-29, the transfer of funds.
Right.
Of surplus.
Of surplus funds.
Surplus funds, and what you need is a not to exceed number from us.
Yes,
and
if
where-
you want,
And where we want to put it, if we want to move it at all.
yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess the first question is, and I'm sorry, I'm taking this, you need a microphone.
Oh, you do need a microphone.
I had to.
Okay.
So I guess the first question we need to answer is, do we want to move any money at all?
I have to ask, I thought you said we were at 102% in the beginning of the meeting, and maybe I'm confused, but now I'm hearing there may be 500,000 between now and the end. Is that 102% to date?
Yes, to date of our projected revenues.
And there's 500 remaining to cover the rest of this month? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, that's so we're showing a net revenue, a surplus right now of $1 million, but we adopted the 2025 budget with a $491,000 carryover. So that has to come off of that, because any amount that we go below that is really coming from our unallocated reserve fund.
So we're
So the
projecting
difference-
that we're going to have $1 million in surplus.
No,
A
that's
million-
where we are right now.
Okay,
Yeah, that's where we are right now. So once, and then if you subtract that, the carryover amount from it, because that's really the amount that we don't want to go below, the difference is about $517,000. So that's really the surplus that we have
that's
right
to
now.
carry us through the rest of the year, or that's in addition to what you?
That's for the rest of the year. That's the
Okay.
surplus.
And you're saying
That's the
we've got a
surplus
lot
we
of-
have at the moment.
We've got multiple payrolls and a lot to come out of that, so we
Yeah.
don't expect to have,
I'm not expecting it to be what it has been in prior years because of that $491,000 carryover target that we
So
don't wanna go below.
what I see in red here is that the amount that we allocated last year, or was up to that amount is what we were allowed to
That was a
work
not,
with?
that was up to, that was just a
Okay.
not to exceed that we set because we didn't have the final numbers yet.
And we
Gotcha.
don't have the final,
And we don't have the final
and
numbers
we
now.
don't have the final numbers now.
So traditionally, the board has always set a somewhat high amount for the not to exceed, just to give that
Mhm.
flexibility. So if we did end up with a very healthy surplus, we could fund the whole $500,000 into the Cap Roads Fund, for example.
I can't see how we could go wrong in putting our surplus into the capital roads. If we're going to have a separate resolution for the make whole for the fire department.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now.
We're doing it right now.
I'm gonna add it into this one.
Okay.
Oh.
Just keep talking.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is all because John worked all weekend on this alternative taxing proposal.
It's fine. I don't have friends who are like.
Okay. So if this is our discussion time for this, my thought would be to put it all in the capital roads.
That's exactly where I'm at too.
Do you have thoughts about where you would put it?
Cap roads.
Cap roads.
Agreed.
Oh, okay. Oh, you have a microphone.
I do.
You're lucky.
Literally magnetic.
So,
I think we're actually ready for this one.
thoughts?
As we create all this work through.
So, just to clarify, Mike, you said you're creating a net new resolution, or you're appending this to the current one?
I'm pending it to the current one.
Okay, great.
I'm doing it right
Okay,
now.
so
Yeah, yeah.
29.
Transfer surplus, but we're adding and authorizing general fund reserve transfer.
Okay,
So,
fantastic.
So it's 2 in 1.
and just for informational, because I know we used last year's resolution as a template for this year's, but the amounts that we were using prior to that were not to exceed 500,000 to the Cap Roads Fund, and not to exceed 150,000 to the Municipal Complex Fund. So those were the numbers from the year prior. That was what was adopted by the board in 2023.
So do we want to say not to exceed 500,000 to the capital roads,
Hmm?
knowing that we're not. gonna get
There's
anything
nowhere
for
going to be,
that?
but the difference between 4 and 5 is functionally
We could say not
non-functional.
20 million, we're not gonna get.
Correct.
Exactly, yeah. But I think the general point here is that we're all on board with Cap Roads, and
Right.
none of us, I think, are looking to retain any of that extra funds.
Right.
Or put it all into Cap Roads. I think is the strategy here.
Okay.
Okay, great. So not
So-
to exceed 500,000 for Cap Roads.
For Cap Road, 500,000.
But yes, not to
So
exceed.
that's going to remain.
Yes, and the municipal complex will get removed.
Okay.
You just take that
You just
section
yeah.
out. So
Yeah,
we
take the
just
line out.
take out this entire
Yeah, yeah.
section.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. How much are we allocating toward the Valley Forge?
So that
Company capital?
that's the next question.
What we
So you
So-
want
did not give them.
This is kind of where the other half of the proposal expands that we didn't discuss on. So they asked for 400. I presume the rationale there is they want their base, and correct me if I'm wrong, Evan and Tom. The rationale there is that you've historically gotten 200, and you're asking for another 200 on top to chip away at that 900 you would have otherwise received. Functionally speaking, though, you're asking for the usual 200, and then there's another 900 on top they would have otherwise had. So we have, I guess, 3 paths forward. We can say 900 is lost, you don't get it, we're going to go back to 200 every year. We can go to, here's the 900 now and the 200 you asked for on top, so 1.1 million transfer right now. Or we give them the 200 plus some amortized rate. So that 900 given back over 4 years, say. So that would be another $275,000 on top of the 200 they would have received already, so 475. Or we can just meet their 400. Regardless, we can find some other rate.
What are the pros and cons that benefit you or don't, one way or the other?
You need a microphone.
We're looking at needing $1.5 million in 2 to 3 years, with 400 of it budgeted this year for a deposit on a truck. Right behind that, we're going to need to order an engine that will be probably closer to 2 million with the way the prices are going, and that'll be in the 2 to 3 years after the first truck is received. So if we can't plan on 200 a year, we're not going to have enough.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And the 900 in one chunk on top of 200, is that what you're asking for to fund it?
Yes.
Yes, plus we have a balance in that fund.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got 800 in their fund.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. I mean, we may have to revisit it down the road. I can't tell you what a truck's gonna cost in 6 years, so.
I would say the other thing to keep in mind too, though, is we're unlikely to purchase a fire truck outright in cash. So, and
But we're only gonna be able to carry one loan.
correct,
Because
but
the
the
loan will be
township,
twice as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
So then the loan payment will be twice as much. It's a great way to borrow money, but it's capped.
Yep.
And it's 2% state money.
No, I
It's capped
agree.
at $340,000.
yeah,
And
no,
even
I
though
totally,
It's invested with Liggett.
correct,
In your
and,
account or this account, does it really matter? It's coming
No.
to you.
right.
Right.
So if it's in their account, I'd say we put it over there and get it done.
Well, it's the township holds the
That's what
capital.
I mean, it's
Okay.
it's our account.
Right.
Their category.
Yeah,
If it's
correct,
an earmarked
yes.
account, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And Tom, how successful have you guys been, or are there any available grants for purchasing trucks? And how successful have you been with that?
So we felt we were
You
getting-
giggle, why?
Because it's the leads are still fresh, so.
We felt we were getting a grant this year.
I know this story, so I'm gonna.
For a
address
brush
what we
truck.
discussed.
And then, because of the government's operations and suspending funding of grants, they came up against the deadline, the end of September. We were supposed to be considered for final approval for the grant. The day they were doing them, they literally couldn't find our paperwork and passed over our application. But that was for a truck roughly $275,000 to replace a 1988 brush truck that we have. So that was not to even touch an engine. Grants for engines or tankers, both of which we're gonna be replacing, they just don't exist.
At all?
No,
They were the priority with FEMA 10 years ago, and they decided it's not their priority.
right.
Which is why we were ecstatic that they were even entertaining our smaller apparatus. It was a moonshot from the start.
If we had gotten funding for the brush truck, we would have been, according to our grant writer, maybe one of 40 companies in the country to go. Because they just don't fund apparatus any longer.
Thank you.
I have a
Can you wait for Bob to get back?
Yeah, but we.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't gonna. Yeah. So in terms of, I mean, what we're talking about is specifically is for 2026. So in terms of, you asked for 400, that 400 would meet your requirements for 2026.
No, it's because it would be a deposit on the truck.
Right. Okay. All right.
If you contract to get the truck built, sometimes you get a discount if you make payments for like once the chassis is built.
Right.
Once the body's on and then final assembly.
There's usually 10 to 15% discount if you prepay the chassis.
Okay.
But again, we're just starting those conversations now, so we don't know.
Right. So that's closer to 27 conversation then, more.
Potentially the 26 draw, which is why we put it in.
Okay. For the okay, gotcha. All right, understood. To Bob's point though, it sounds like functionally there's not too much of a difference between moving the 900 over now. So I.
Still sits with you.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay.
and I am in. It's exactly it's yeah. Yeah, and I mean I had full intention of paying the 900 back, so I have no issue with that. I'll obviously wait for Bob to get back to add comments on that, but Danielle and Martha.
I can't.
Here.
I can think of few worthier causes. I mean, we've had a lot of discussion tonight about how expensive taxes are, but it's really expensive when your house burns down. And I've seen one of my neighbors' houses almost burn down, and I can't see many things that are more valuable funding than the fire department, fire company,
Fire team.
fire team fire.
So one question I have is, how do you want to handle the EMS?
I was just
They
about to
also
bring that
made
up.
a capital request for EMS.
Yep.
So,
19.
What?
19.
but we do,
Thousand.
and we don't currently have a separate, so we'd have to handle that separately. Because we can't combine the fire capital and the EMS capital request, right? I can't, no, I can't.
So if
Does
you
the
need to
fund
set
have
up
to
a
be-
separate account for that, and I don't want to say it's only 19,000 because that just sounds terrible. I would set up the account first and then do that. We can't make those transfers in the first
First
quarter of
quarter.
the year.
Yeah.
Can you
When,
authorize the
when
transfer
when are
and
they,
setting up
when
the
are
account?
they looking to?
Thank you, Mark.
Always better. That fleet is in.
We also need to, we have more administrative work we have to do on that because EMS funding is completely new. So with the fire department, we've had a longstanding agreement that we will have to update to make sure that all of your current equipment is covered and anything new that gets purchased, we would have to add to it. We have an agreement with the fire department that we've had for many years that whatever percentage of their apparatus that the township funds, we own should they close their doors. We should talk to them and do the same agreement for West End because we've not traditionally funded West End before. So that is just some back-end administrative work that we would need to do. I also would need to establish a new bank account for a capital fund with them, which I can do, but I would just need the authorization to establish that account.
Do you need that tonight?
No,
I think you
we
could
wanna put it
authorize me
together as
that.
a package, probably.
But I can't move them.
Can
So
we
I'd either have
vote?
to do it tonight or in April, right?
Well,
Dollars?
is it-
Sing
is
it.
it in the
my
budget, though?
mattress.
It's not in your 2026 budget?
No.
The other
So they're
question,
doing the same thing.
Can we?
There's no, in the capital accounts were only getting funded if the full 1 mil tax increase. That's what was built into the budget.
Even then.
And
I was
then
gonna
there
give
was
it to Carolyn, but she
nothing,
wasn't in her seat.
there's nothing in the general fund
No, it's yours.
to
No.
contribute towards the fire department or EMS. It
You're
was
not
all
gonna
in-
give her a
surplus. She wasn't there. Stop by.
he was good. He was gonna eat that pretzel. He was gonna eat that without giving it to you. Yes, he was. But I have a my question is, we're talking about 19, but wasn't it 25 in the proposal? Was it 19? Wasn't it 25? It wasn't 19.
Is that I can't make any fund transfers in the first 3 months of the year.
Okay. From this original proposal.
I don't, you shouldn't
Because of the
authorize
1
it
mil.
to happen
Okay,
in the
but
first 3 months of
initially
the
you
year
were
either,
asking for 25.
I would say.
Okay. See, I did my homework. I got last year's too.
That's what I'm thinking.
When all that's set up, wait till we're out
So you have all of that set up, yeah. I know you just said sooner rather than. I know you guys just said sooner rather than later, but there's a ton of back work that.
No, correct. They weren't gonna get it all at once.
Even if you got it all in the millage, it wasn't going to come in just on January 1st. So,
We can do it either way. You can either authorize it now and I think give me authorization to open the bank account. I
That's
think,
what it's written.
okay,
And to pre-fund in the initial amount of 19,000, use of the foregoing being subject to a funding agreement in form and substance accepted to the township and approved at a duly authorized public meeting.
thank you. I was going to suggest you do that. So thank you for doing
And can
that.
we also add like any other administrative tasks that she would need to do?
I think that's all.
So that she doesn't have to come back
think-
to us later and say,
I think he
oh, I
covered
need
bank-
to do blah, blah, blah.
Bank account agreement.
Yeah.
Two big ones.
And then the 19,000.
Yeah, the pre-funding.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to, okay, that's fine. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
This could be like a PSATS training seminar. Watch the lawyer in real time. Write all the.
That's 2025 for the Valley.
Just have ChatGPT to do it.
Oh, God.
Wait.
No, it's 2026.
For what?
I have my clients now.
So-
I'm gonna get some more water. I have my, is that, because I think we're still working on it.
I was just gonna bring up the amount, but
Yeah,
that's
talk
fine.
to, well, I'm fine
So-
with the amount, so talk to Bob
okay.
about the amount. 'cause Bob was
So, so mechanisms aside, they requested 19,000. Are we good with that? The EMS company? Okay.
For Valley Forge, not okay.
I'm sorry, John, she was running over her scarf.
What are you apologizing to me for?
Everything's happening in twenty twenty-five.
With her chair.
I didn't
I
even
guess you can
notice.
feel it.
No. It tells you where I'm at right now.
Okay, I think we are covered, but I'm gonna let Mike say out loud what we just put in there to make sure that it's what the board intends.
Whoever is in the current transfer of funds document, can you go out of that so I can delete this and we can add the new one?
Sorry, I just did it.
Yeah,
Mic-
good
a
idea.
microphone as well too when he goes through that, so that's recorded.
Yes.
Someone is still in it.
That might be Danielle.
Okay.
Are you the transfer funds document?
Sorry.
I am closed out of everything.
Everything's there.
And then I'll drag the new one in there. I am not in it. Except me. Are you in it, Bob? That may be correct. Bob is in it. Yes, you're in it. Let's get out of it. There we go. Okay. So then I'll drag.
It was Bob. Thirsty Bob. Thirsty Bob.
Oh, we had somebody. Yeah. Why don't I just my email's not copying it in to my email because my OneDrive isn't updating yet because the email account or the internet here. But let me.
Do you have it on a Word document?
I have it in Word, yeah.
Can you drag it into
every
problem
problem
you
we've
can drag
ever
it
had
into the shared drive.
here?
I can drag it in the shared drive.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can drag it into the shared drive.
But I'm not sure if it's gonna let me because
Oh, yeah, it'd be real fun.
Oh wait, maybe it did it. Hold on a sec.
Copy and paste it into.
Yeah, I do. I get it. Old
Weird,
man
I
version.
drag. I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know that either.
You don't do that?
No.
You were really hired now.
Old man Mike. Okay, so the yeah, back,
Never in
drag
my day.
anything.
No, I didn't even know
So
that.
resolution 2025-2020-2029 will now authorize the one-time unbudgeted transfer up to $500,000 from the general fund to the capital roads fund. Not to exceed.
I now dragged it into the shared drive.
It will also authorize the supplemental appropriation from funds on hand from the 2025 budget toward the Valley Forge Volunteer Fire Company Capital Fund in the amount of $900,000. And then authorizes the establishment of the West End Ambulance Company Capital Fund in the amount of $19,000. Use of the foregoing being subject to a funding agreement in form and substance acceptable to the township and approved at a duly authorized public meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank all of you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so, I know we talked about tabling, the stuff for Lori. I was gonna go through literally everything else.
Do fun, we haven't done, yeah.
Oh my
30.
god, yeah, I skipped right through it. Yeah, yeah. All right, now I'm making a motion for approval of resolution 2025-30 fund balance policy. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I think we've discussed this already. All in favor?
Well,
Aye.
Well, does anyone have anything else they want to say?
No.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. With that, we're on to 2-minute reports. Bob, got anything for us from open space?
Not much to discuss. Still scratching and clawing, looking for opportunities, and did attend the planning commission meeting. That was interesting with the Oakwood Lane, or Jug Hollow, I guess,
Oakwood
Piazza
Lane.
property development. A lot to be uncovered there. It's going to take a while to sort that out, but interesting. I appreciated the board looking at it and asking a lot of questions, and I think there's quite a few things that need to evolve there. So we'll see how that goes. That's it.
So you don't think it'll come before the board anytime soon?
I don't think it's anytime soon. I think it's got to go back and forth with Valley Forge Sewer, with engineering. There's quite a list of things for them to review and address.
Yeah, they have about. Yeah, they probably have about 200 total comments between TNM, the Planning Commission, the Bowman, and oh my gosh, I can't forget whoever the fourth person was who was doing a letter. But yeah, they have a lot of comments to go through, and they have a lot of questions, and they did not have a lot of answers to what was.
So Bob went to the planning commission for me because I was away, and you went to the historical commission for me.
I did, that's right.
But there will be no historical commission in December, and you are unsure whether there will be a planning commission meeting this month?
As of right now, there is no meeting. There is a potential that an applicant for a stormwater management grading permit application might be submitting a waiver request letter, which would need a recommendation from the planning commission.
Okay.
It would be a very late agenda if there is one.
Okay, I have asked Bob you can't, oh, that's right, you can't.
I have a dinner with my stepson and Carolyn that night, so I won't be able to.
What's the date?
So if one of you could attend, if there is that meeting, because.
What's the date?
October.
December 17th. He said Wednesday, December 17th.
If one of you could attend that for me, because I will not be here in January to give a report. So that's it. That's all I have to report on.
Historic Commission might end up having a meeting. Something just came in that,
Oh, really?
yeah, we got a conditional use application, so.
Really?
It was me.
Yeah.
Just to bring you back.
So
I
was gonna say somebody's
I-
gonna have to attend that too.
I can take the planning commission meeting if you need me to.
I can take historic if it's needed then.
Well, it's not that it's not needed, it's that I'm not going to be here next month.
Oh,
to give
no, I'm sorry.
a report.
If they meet, I'm
Oh,
saying,
oh,
sorry,
oh,
not.
Yeah, no, not, yeah, if they have the meeting.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, you should not attend, and everyone except for Martha, you should not attend the historical
Oh,
commission where
yes.
they're gonna talk about this, because it's an application for conditional use, which would come
Right.
before you as the judges.
So either Martha should go, or I guess I should go.
Yeah, or I could go.
Oh, you know what, I think maybe one of you two should go, because I'm not gonna be here next month
Yeah.
to report on anything, so. It doesn't
That's
make
fine.
sense
That's
for me to go.
With graphics and images
If you would like.
and.
Full transcript.
Full
No.
transcript.
You're picking up what she's putting down. She doesn't want to go.
We'll cover it.
Thank you.
I'm trying to cover
us so that you're not like, oh, they had this really important meeting and nobody's here to give them a report.
Yeah, no, one of us will be there.
Andrew could go to the meeting because he's not going to be here next month, too.
True.
Andrew's sick, yeah. I just don't want our staff to have to go to an evening meeting after working all day.
That's okay. We got it.
I'm sorry? We could ask a historic commission member to report at the board meeting.
Well, we should really have the historical commission prepare hearing that we don't see before.
Yes, correct, right. They've done that before.
done that.
This is, it's not their first, yeah, it's not their first conditional use. Yeah.
Can't go. We can't go.
No. Yeah, so Valentina or I will go there. We'll go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a really long 2-minute report. I'm sorry.
And I'll go on the, okay. So is it my turn? Yes. Okay. So I was at the Environmental Advisory Council meeting for John. We played a lot of musical chairs for meetings this month, and it was a really great meeting. That committee is really doing a lot. I mean, I think that they're really engaged and active. They reported on the success of the tree giveaway. They were talking about some of the bird nest projects that they have going. They did ask some questions. They didn't spend as much as I think they had budgeted for this past year. And so they were trying to decide what makes sense for them for use of funds next year. They were also wondering whether they could actually have a native plant sale. And it wasn't so much for them to make money because they didn't spend all of their budget, but they were looking for a way to sort of get more native plants out into the environment, and they were wondering whether they could actually have a sale, and then what would be done with, if they did actually make a profit, what would be done with that revenue since they're a committee. And so that was a question I was going to bring back to the board, because it wouldn't be, I guess you could call them donations, and then they could come in and they'd be optional, but if they were actually funds that would be being brought in, can a committee organized from the township actually bring in revenue that way? Yeah.
We've looked at this before.
So
No.
maybe this is just yeah. Could you think? I told them I would come and I would speak with you, Mike, about it. Because the other thing is, they were talking about potentially raffles, and I used to do this. I used to do the whole, because you need to make sure they're not lotteries, that they are true raffles, because they have to be, and then you have to have alternative ways for people to enter that are there's no consideration paid. And so that's also a tricky thing. You want to be really careful when you do raffles, but that was another idea that they had.
That's why we've always done the giveaway.
Yeah. Yeah.
As part of an educational.
Yeah.
That's why we've always done the tree giveaway as part of an educational portion of the native plant thing and the stormwater education and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. And the other thing they were talking about is they wanted to provide input on the municipal complex in terms of environmentally friendly things, solar panels, and I told them that I'm sure we'll have workshops in 2026 on it, and they should send a representative and make sure their voice is heard in that discussion.
What if we ran it almost like a farmer's market, but for vendors to come in who sell native plants? So we're not the ones who are selling it, but we're providing the venue for them to come in to sell?
We've done that. We did that with
We did that with a speaker at one point. Do you guys know the guy? I forget what his name is at the moment. He does You Bet Your Garden from WHYY.
I used to listen to that all the time.
I can't think of his name right now. He came to speak at one of our events at the country club, and he sold some of his books.
Oh, and I forgot, there's one more thing. They had a really nice presentation from a gentleman who was pitching it specifically for Sedgley, but there's an app where you can go and measure the environmental diversity of an area. And so he was giving a demonstration on how that works, how you can take that app and you can register that there's a specific type of plant in an area as a way of assisting with grant applications, that where you need to demonstrate what's there, what invasives are there. But the EAC is going to take that and discuss that and bring it to us once they have a fully fleshed out plan. They talked about how it's important for them to put the work in on developing plans and bringing them to us with straw men. So I thought it was a really great meeting, actually. PRPC, not much to report. There was a West Vincent Township development on 218 acres that we did a consistency review for, but there wasn't much. Our chair did not win his primary, so he's off the board next year. They're looking for a new chair. They asked me if I would do it. I don't think I'm going to do it. So we're gonna maybe Charlestown. Maybe we'll see, but they're looking for a new chair.
Yeah. For Historic Commission, the big thing that was discussed was America's 250th. We've got our own head volunteer in the audience with us today. They got some really big ideas. I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Much in the same vein, though, encouraged getting a formal plan together that you can bring before us to discuss. I know there's a lot to be done, but looking forward to see what you all put together for us. That was the big thing that came out of the Historic Commission. Some other discussion on the historic homes that are on the Christian Conference Center property on Valley Forge, and will need to be done about that specifically. If I remember correctly, the current plan is currently talking about tearing those down, which would require approval from the Historic Commission. That's about it. That'll hand it over to Laura. But it's just, yeah, exactly. It's just a sketch plan right now, yeah. Oh, you have yours.
Yeah, I have nothing that was not discussed, so I
All right.
can, we'll hand it over to Chief.
Chief. Oh, yeah, you'll need this.
And then we can hand it to Paul.
Yep.
You're gonna do some karaoke for us, Bill? You're gonna do some karaoke for
No.
us?
You all have the usual monthly report. If there's any questions on that, I'll take them. In addition to that, as I said before, we're in the middle of our coat drive and food drive. Next week, we are doing Shop of the Cop, which is a highlight of the year for me. We get a chance to take kids out to Target, and they have a budget, and then they get to go shopping, and we accompany them. So that's a good time.
Where are you taking them, or you're not allowed to say?
Target.
Oh, you're taking them to Target. Oh, that's great.
A lot of stores won't tolerate the mayhem. So, but Target's very understanding with checkout and everything. So that's why we use them.
Oh, that's good.
Other than that, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Year-to-date incidents from 24 to 25, is the reason for the jump there mostly business checks compared to last year, or is that?
Yes, you asked for a more accurate accounting, and
Got
that's
it.
why we did that.
Perfect. And I noticed that the deer numbers are up again. We've had people come in and complaining about that. Next year, we're probably going to revisit that and talk about a program or something where we can interface with.
Yeah, I mean, it's not drastically,
that.
but it's a little more.
But consistently every year, it seems to be climbing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks, Chief.
Sure.
You can hand that to Paul. Yeah.
Just for the engineering report, the sidewalk HOP permit application, we extended for another extension the week of Thanksgiving. So we're in another cycle going forward on that.
How long is that?
The extensions are usually 3 months.
Any success with pushing back on the soft dig requirement?
No, we haven't gotten out of that yet at this point. So we're thinking that we're going to need to do it. And based off of some of the situations that have occurred at the intersection of White Horse and 23, we've already done Gilmore and Associates did a one call. We've done a one call. We're going to do another one call. And then when the contract is awarded, they will have to do a one call. Sometimes utility companies don't always respond exactly what's going on there. So there's just been a lot of utility soup going on at the intersection where the Wawa's proposed right now.
I'm just curious, is it mostly electrical lines, water lines, everything? All the things?
It's really
Gas?
There's gas, but a lot of it has to do with sometimes it's just an abandoned line.
Yes.
So when you're digging down, you're scared to hit whether it's a plastic conduit or an old metal pipe, and sometimes the utility companies aren't always the best at being responsive and getting out there. So we figure after like I said, Gilmore's done it once, we've done it once, we do it one more time, and then when the contractor's officially going out there, they should have flushed through anything that could possibly be out there in the way.
Alrighty, moving on then for discussion of agenda items for upcoming workshop meetings.
We'll discuss this more in January.
Yeah, we can discuss this more in January. Yeah. We've talked about a lot of this. I mean, DEER was one of them. 5-year budget planning, we keep hammering on. I know we've done work on the ordinance revamps too, so we'll probably want to sync back up on that again, the status of that.
I'm going to put that one as a top priority based on some of the things I heard at the last planning commission meeting. I think that's something we have to address quickly.
With zoning, you mean? Okay.
Yes.
Again, we'll talk about this in more detail next year. But anything else, any other topics anyone want to throw out in the meantime?
I mean, it just municipal complex, like people
are
going to want to talk about that, and with new board members are going to want to talk about that. So
Yep.
I think that especially with the makeup of the board having switched so much, it really we need a tour. I think that it would be beneficial for the board, especially the new board members, to do a tour and of the police station as well.
Yeah.
We've done that actually.
Already? Oh, you did?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay,
Couple
take
weeks
that
ago.
off the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Any announcements? Taking out. Awesome. I will open it up for general public comment, and then we're gonna. Yeah, I'm going through literally everything, and I'll come back to the last two things.
Got to get the fire too.
Yeah. So any.
fire
Oh, and.
No, that's okay.
You're doing karaoke.
I want to say on behalf of there's 51 active firefighters and probably another 50 some auxiliary executive level members, but the men and women of Valley Forge Fire Company, I just want to say thank you. I know we're having some tough conversations. They're not always pretty, but the end cause is what we're all here for. So, and 100% of those people that we're talking about tonight are volunteer. They do live in the township. They are affected by everything that we say and do. So thank you for that. You have our report. And then the only other thing I'll throw at you guys is there was a lot of good conversation here tonight about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Years ago, we went to the country club to do one of the quarterly things on the Township Time. One resident showed up. So,
And that was my husband.
correct. So maybe we do another one of those. Obviously, there's some people asking what we do, and we've come a long way in our conversations and even where we were previously in the previous years. So whatever we can do to help, let us know.
Great.
So, thank
Appreciate that, Evan.
Oh, when's Santa coming?
Saturday.
Saturday.
I'm
Great.
busy
Yeah.
Saturday. I can't drive
I wanted to
Santa.
thank all of you, and I wanted to thank Andrew for your service. I hope you're feeling better. And Martha, all the years of service. Thank you.
I'm not going anywhere. I still live here.
For now. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Right there.
Bobby Riley, 185 Hawthorne Lane. First, I want to just encourage the board to really think about doing something for America 250 next year to celebrate our nation's semi-quincentennial. I want to thank the Historical Commission for appointing me at this moment as chair of a committee to do something for that. John, you had asked about further proposal of doing something that. I have submitted some information to the township for that. So if you've given it a first pass of looking over, if you need any more information about that in any type of areas, if you have some concerns that you want to raise at this time, I'm happy to help address those at this time. And again, I just hope that we feel very enthusiastic about supporting the epicenter that we are in history of this area and how important that is. And I think we can do something that would really be impactful for our community to get together and dare to declare for next year. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for staying through the entire meeting too.
Yes, it is much appreciated. Yes.
Santa arrives Friday night and then making the tour around the township Saturday. Okay. So we got it booked up the whole weekend.
On Friday.
Tree lighting at 7 on Friday. Santa doing his tour on Saturday.
You can have the.
It's on the record now.
And it's on. Isn't it on? You have an app, right? Isn't there
That app last year.
No, I thought it was good. I liked it. It was good.
I don't know. Santa spent an awful lot of time at Evan's house. He's not even listening to me.
All right. Any further public comment? Great. Then I am going to make a motion to amend the agenda to include the resolution 2025-31, recognizing and honoring Martha Majeski. Yeah, you thought you were going to get away with it. I honestly I did, and then I found it again. So yes, resolution 2025-31, resolution for recognizing and honoring Martha Majeski for her years of dedicated service. Whereas Martha Majeski has been an active and engaged member of Schuylkill Township for over a decade, generously offering her time, leadership, and commitment to the betterment of the community. Whereas Martha Majeski first became involved with the township service in 2010 upon her election as township auditor. And whereas Martha Majeski was appointed to the Board of Supervisors in 2011 and was subsequently elected to continue her service, during which she served the residents of the township with dedication, professionalism, and integrity. Whereas during her tenure, Martha Majeski served as a liaison to the Historic Commission, Planning Commission, Environmental Advisory Council, and the Phoenixville Area School District, and Tax Collection, faithfully representing the township interests in each role. And whereas Martha Majeski was instrumental in securing grant funding for township initiatives, including the creation of Valley Park and the Butterfly Garden, and played a significant role in the vision and establishment of Valley Park as a lasting source for the township community. And whereas Martha Majeski played a key role in advancing community projects such as the Valley Park Trolley and other initiatives that strengthened the township's recreational, historical, and environmental assets. And whereas Martha Majeski's leadership, advocacy, and collaborative spirit have left a lasting positive impact on township operations, open space, community partnerships, and long-range planning. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Schuylkill Township hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Martha Majeski for her many years of dedicated public service, recognizes her instrumental contributions to the township and its residents, and extends its best wishes to her in all her future endeavors. One more round of applause for Martha.
You're awesome, Martha.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Any final words?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I had to offer. Great. Do I hear a second to approve that resolution?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right. With that, we are going to drop back into executive session for us to discuss some personal matters. Thank you. You're welcome to stick around, but we do ask that everybody please vacate the room at this time. With that, I will call us back to our public meeting, and I will make a motion to approve the employment contract for Township Manager Lori Getz for a term of January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2027. Do I hear a second?
Second. Oh.
Great.
I'm sorry, who got that?
Bob.
Okay.
Hurricane Bob.
Hurricane Bob.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.